Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thinker St. James here. Welcome back to the Yama channel. I am joined by my good friend Chase Parton, and tonight we are going to be reviewing the highly requested film 2011's Warrior for MMA on Film. Chase, how are you?
I am all right. It is another good day, of course, and we get to talk about MMA, so I'm very excited. And it's a movie again, so we're glad to be back, of course.
Absolutely. Taking a little bit of a break from all of the craziness going on in the sport to look at this film, Warrior. As I had said, highly requested one for MMA on Film. We appreciate all of the people who have been enjoying the series. As always, let us know other films in the comments that you might want us to review and take a look at. As you know, we go very in depth on these films and we quite enjoy doing it. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, if anybody out there was wondering, just so we can give a little preface, I started watching this from a link that was sent to us by our good friend Bloomis, and then I eventually switched over to Pluto TV. I don't know if anybody's familiar. It's free. You can just watch any channel apparently, and there's other things like on-demand movies such as The Warrior 2011, and it was in HD this time, so I will give it to that one. Watching it on Pluto was great. I don't know if you had the experience of watching it with the potato link that I had, but it was rough.
Oh no, I did not. The quality was fine for me. Again, must have been a mix up there, but either way, yes, Pluto TV. If you have not seen this film, you're watching the review and want to see what we're talking about and have not seen it, check it out on Pluto TV. Other than that, it's been out on DVD forever, of course. So it's
True.
out there in a number of different ways if you have not seen it. But a lot of MMA fans have seen this film, and that was the next question: was what did you know about this film coming into it, Chase?
I knew that people kept asking me to watch this fucking film. And,
Right.
it was people that, I respect. These are people highly regarded, in my opinion. And they wanted me to watch this because they loved it. And, I can see why. I can see why they wanted that.
Of course, yes, we will get into all of the details. I myself only knew that this movie is basically the same thing, that this movie was very highly regarded by MMA fans. Excuse me, that, very highly regarded film. I knew that the film starred the dude from Black Mass. That's what I remembered. Joel Edgerton. I now know the name is that is Joel Edgerton, but I know him from the film Black Mass. And actually, I recalled that because I thought in the film Black Mass he was fantastic. He was actually one of my more favorite characters in that film, aside from the main character. But yeah.
Well, yeah. So what I was gonna say is, well, so this is a two-parter main character kind of deal, and so you immediately recognized Edgerton. I obviously recognize the other person, Mr. Tom Hardy, who is in this, and I think that's just interesting that you noticed the other guy. I noticed then Tom Hardy. So go ahead.
Yeah. No, well, to that point, yes, I know. Like, I'm glad that I saw this film. I can't tell you another Tom Hardy film that I'd seen him in without the Bane mask on. I knew he was
Oh, okay.
Bane, and
Okay. Well,
that was the big one, right? But so yeah, and I know he's been in other movies. I know the name. I've heard the name plenty of times. I actually, little pre-trivia, I knew that he is a secret rapper. Did you know that Tom Hardy does a little
I
rapping?
did not know this. Okay.
Very under the radar. But you see, so I know a little bit about him, and I know the name, but I think that this might be I'm sure that I've seen him in something else, but like aside from the Dark Knight series or whatever,
He's
Dark Knight.
Venom, dude.
Oh, yes, you're right. I did see him in Venom as well. Yes, I did see the Venom movie. Okay, so there you go. So yes, I'm aware of Tom Hardy, but I aside from this, I don't know if I've ever seen him like in a more serious, grounded role like this. So this was one of the more, straightforward, dramatic kind of performances aside from those comic book films that we had mentioned. So yeah, but I had seen that out of Joel Edgerton. And like I said, I like Black Mass a lot. It's actually one of my more favorite recent mafia related films. I really enjoy that film a lot. So I thought that he was good. I liked the film, and I was like, okay, let's watch this one.
Well, since you actually, I wasn't going to bring it up, but so there is a show that Tom Hardy is in, and it's kind of like a mafia kind of thing. It's not Peaky Blinders, but it's Peaky something or
Penny
Peak.
Dreadful, is that what it is?
There you go.
I
That
only know that because I also get it like the Peaky Blinders Penny Dreadful. You know what I mean? Like I see
yeah.
the So anyway, but yeah, so there you go. I mean that the film stars Joel Edgerton, the film stars Tom Hardy, and the film also stars Nick Nolte as well, their father. We'll talk about him, of course. So yes, we that's what we know about it, and we know that a lot of people loved it. You know, it's about MMA. I guess without further ado, let's jump into this thing, eh?
Go for it.
All right. Well, I mean, starting this thing off, you get gray industrial town shots. I said, is this Pittsburgh? Because shout out to Pittsburgh, one of the great American cities, the working man's city of Pittsburgh.
Yes, I would actually like to. I'm sorry that I had you start. I thought you were going to catch this. So before the movie started, before you see anything, and this is key to know, Lionsgate popped up, and I said instantly, this might be a decent movie. And then we saw the industrial city, and we saw people leaving a church with the old country tune, and I was already not really interested because I didn't care about the country music of the church going people at the time, but I did know they were having a good Sunday service. That's all that I knew was going on at this point. So this was really fun,
Well,
interesting.
yeah. So we see those establishing shots. I thought it looked like Pittsburgh, but we don't know that for sure. But then, yes, we cut to people coming out of the church, and Nick Nolte is one of those people. I said Nolte was already kind of aging, and he's definitely older now, but like he was already sort of aged by then, wearing his age in 2011. I said I was like, Nick Nolte, obviously an actor for many years, but he looks and sounds his age because he has this raspy voice we'll talk about later on, but it's you see it in his face. Definitely he's an older man in this film.
What's interesting to note again, and I think this is just the two eras different that we have here, because I have no idea who this old man is. This is just an old man to me. Like you're
Okay, yeah.
saying his name, like I recognize the name. Oh, sorry, I recognize the name, which is probably something that my parents would have said around the house, like that dude's a fucking douche or something, anything like that. But I have no idea who this old man is. Like when I see him, he looks no familiar features to me at all.
Well,
So
he is a long time actor with a very long resume. So maybe you go back and do some Nick Nolte watching, on your own time there. But so, I mean, now it's kind of an interesting dichotomy there because now you don't have any frame of reference for him. So
yeah, to be fair, he cooks. I mean,
yeah, he's
at the
really is
beginning,
good in this role.
once you get towards the end of the film, the performance makes a little more sense at the beginning. But when I was watching it, it was a little, it wasn't as good as I was thinking it was, and then at the end, it kind of made more sense, is what I'll say. So yeah, Nick Nolte, hey, shout out, I guess there was
There you
little
go.
layers to the performance.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would say so too. So, we're watching him come out of the church. He gets into the car and he is listening to Moby Dick on audiobook. This is an absolute Chad move on his part, as Moby Dick is the greatest American novel, in my opinion, my favorite book. So I was, Bloomis knew that, and he was like, "Oh, you're gonna really like what he's listening to," I found out, and I was like, "There you go. That's a definite alpha move to be listening to Moby Dick."
And this is a classic callback. We'll get to it later, but to have this moment, where he's listening to Moby Dick, it's important to the character of Pops, is what I initially called him before you find out that he's just called Pops.
Yeah, pretty
So
much.
so anyway, so the scene ends. He drives off, listening to his audiobook, which revolutionary at the time. Who'd have thought they were doing that way before we had cell phones? Um,
Actually, on tape, on cassette.
Exactly, So then we cut to nighttime, and we got a man taking pills on the porch. He's also drinking, which is one combination. That is a good one, I'll tell you. And then Churchman gets to the house, which again, this is Pops, but we don't know that yet. And Tom Hardy, which again, we don't know this yet, but he's just sitting on the porch having himself a drink and taking his pills. Good. It was a very good time there, I would say.
I guess, yeah. I mean, you when you're mixing the pills and the alcohol, you're obviously in a. What I say about that from a filmmaking perspective, you get a lot of information about a character very quickly with that.
Yeah.
So you know your frame of reference is instantly set just by what you see in that very brief amount of time.
Yeah, 100%. And then so
Oh,
they
also, I wanted to know
oh
too.
yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry. I wanted to know too. He chews on his pills at one point early on there too. I was like, that is a pro move right there. You know, when you're chewing the pills and then you follow it up with the booze, that's some dangerous living.
I know you love when I bring up It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, but there is an episode where they do the $1 million baby kind of deal, and
Right.
there's taking steroids and they're chewing on them, and it's just Charlie, love Charlie, and he's just chewing, munching down on fucking, big ass pills. It's just really, really funny.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyway, so then they go inside and they're having a quick combo about, or actually they're not inside yet, I'm sorry, they're having a quick
Yeah.
combo about life, and then the car, and then Tommy offers him a beer, and Pop says no. And this was a really funny line early on in the movie. He's like, what, you change brands? Like, okay, I'll go get some more. It's really funny by Tommy there. Yeah.
Yeah. No, not a beer though. It was like a whiskey. He had
Well,
a bottle of whiskey.
either way,
Well, I was
beer.
just
No,
kind of. Yeah. Oh yeah.
maybe it was
Yeah.
beer
No.
when he got inside, when he started raiding. No, because he wouldn't have had
No,
beer in there.
no, because he had the bottle for dad, and he had a brown bag for himself. That was the
Nice.
yeah. This dude
Okay.
is going all in on the hard drink. That's the distinction there, is because he's going heavy. He's
Yeah.
deep in it.
Yeah, 100%. And then Pops offers him inside, and then we get a title card, Warrior.
Well, I mean, there's we yeah, right, that does happen. Yeah, we get another one of those like boom cards. But
Yes.
before that, in the actual chat, there was a little bit more to it. So he pulls up, and yeah, Tommy, he recognizes this guy who we find out is this Tommy person. He's like, "What are you doing here?" kind of thing. It's like hasn't been around for a while, and then you get the implication from this little chat that there's already a little
Hmm.
friction going on between the two of them. He implies that maybe the older man did not prioritize him, the family is kind of, again, these are all implications, but you get it through the course of this little conversation. Dad is letting it slide. Pops is kind of just like, I guess, it's one of those weird situations where you got this guy showing up out of nowhere and he's letting it, kind of go, but he's getting a little bit of this passive aggressiveness out of him. And then we finally get on past that, but it sets the tone for the type of relationship we will find out about as they are inside after
Yeah.
the title card there.
And then we get to, once we get inside, we get more into what's going on with this relationship. So, Tommy starts asking him, what's it like not having a wife anymore or something like that? What's it like living on your own? And then he drops this hard ass bar. He drops this bar right here. It must be hard finding a woman who can take a punch these days. And I said, wow, okay, this is crazy. All right,
Now
it,
you're really getting the meat of it.
yeah, exactly. Like before, it was them brushing it off and not really talking about it. But then Tommy just slips these in there, subtle little jabs, pun intended. And Dad Pops is just, he's just taking it at this point because he's a new man. He's saved. We go on in this conversation about him, turning to the Lord or whatever, not touching the bottle, anything like that. I'm not sure where it comes up in this conversation exactly, but more
It's
or
throughout the
less,
whole rest of it.
yeah,
I mean, like,
yeah.
this whole thing, that's the basic gist of all of the conversation is, dad is turning away from the negative aspects of his life, which obviously led to some pretty bad friction there. And, Tommy hasn't been around for a while, and the relationship is obviously very strained. Because when Tommy first gets in there, he's like, "Oh, there's no woman's touch around here,"
Mm.
and Pop says, "No more women for me." And I was like, "Well, between that and listening to Moby Dick on tape, this is an incredibly based old man here." But he's, that aside. Then yeah, that line that he dropped was pretty cutting. I said, yeah, I also had that in the notes that was a bar. Also, dad was abusive apparently. So But one note from the background of this too, like what you'll get from as an overarching note of this film is this is as much an MMA film as this is an indictment of the human condition as a working class American. There's a number of points that come up in this story that like signal to the nature of things, at least in 2011, how they were for like the average American, lower class Americans. And one of the things that that shows that, we'll talk a little bit about it in the rest of this conversation, but there's in addition to the Moby Dick that he's listening to on the audiobook, there's John Steinbeck is very prominently displayed. One of the books on the shelf back there, Steinbeck, for those who are not aware, was
Enlighten me, please.
yeah, he wrote of Mice and Men. He was a very
Ah,
prolific American author who wrote primarily about the Dust Bowl and lower class Americans in Depression era and that kind of thing. So it's just, again, I thought that was a nice touch to signal the type of story that this is, because unlike some other films that we have reviewed on this show, namely Bruised with Halle Berry, this film does not need to beat it over your head. It gives you this information in pieces, but doesn't need to force it down your throat at every second like Bruce did.
yeah, just a quick comparison with Bruise. There was, the scene that Holly had towards the end of the movie with her mom, where she dropped some very vulgar language in a very intense moment. This is a movie that didn't need to do any of that, and they still got their point across, if not even better. So,
Exactly. Yeah, no, that scene that you're talking about is a great example of the differences, because that was a scene where they dropped a bomb's worth of information on you kind of haphazardly. This is a much more gradual and natural progression of information coming out.
well, it's not just that. Also, this is storytelling.
Right.
This is something that you would watch, and you don't need to be told what's happening. You would just understand. He's declining the drinks. He's drinking alone. Pops is dejected from it. They're anyway, it's silent storytelling is all that you can gather from this, compared to what you had seen in fucking Bruised. But either way,
Sure.
so
Well, so yeah, Dad's
yep.
1,000 days sober here. He's saying, and Tommy is hitting the brown bag in the living room, in front of Dad. So again, part of that dynamic here, he's saying that he's sober. This dude is drinking, and obviously with the pills that we know about as well. Then there's continuous exposition dumping going on with the situation with the mother, and that's the real other thing that I wanted to make sure that we got to in this part of the film, because throughout the course of this conversation, Tommy is saying that the mother and now what we find out is the two brothers, Tommy and then his brother, who he kind of sees in the pictures on the shelves or whatever. The dad says, "Oh, your brother's a teacher now." He kind of gives him a little information. We're getting all of these things in pieces, but Tommy lets us know that him, his brother, and their mother had to flee Pops. They left. They went west, and then apparently the mother passed away in a very traumatic way. And Tommy makes a very big point to say that, we didn't have insurance. So we were out there in some, shitty apartment while mom was coughing up blood. And where were you, kind of thing. Again, giving you the information that you need as backstory, but also unfolding what I was saying about like the plight of the lower middle class person in this kind of scenario.
Yeah, 100%. This is exactly where. So Tom Hardy is looking at his accolades. Actually, before this, just to go back one moment, I love
Yes.
the "You're not gonna drink with me? Come on!" Like
Sure.
that. That's a great moment. And then Tom Hardy is looking at the accolades. At this point, you're looking at the photos, and you're presumably like, oh, he's looking at himself and like what he wants or what he once was, and then you're listening to the narration about two brothers, and then he starts looking at other photos, and you're like, okay, so it's two people that are going to be in this story in a sense. And then Tom Hardy, really good acting at this point. Like he's really doing a good job early on selling you an emotional roller coaster of a character, and I think that's very key. And so combo gets hard. Tom starts questioning why the dad wasn't around, and then Pops drops the line that he hired somebody to go find them,
Right.
and bring him back the information.
Correct.
And then Tommy tells him like, did this guy tell you that we were fucking in this apartment while mom was fucking dying? Like, did he get to witness that? Did he get to help, or no, he just fucking came back for information? And logical point. Very good reasoning. I like
Yeah.
that one. It's a good bar.
Yeah, and again, I don't mean to keep harping on it, but it will come back into play at one other key point of the film. So that's why I was saying about like him specifically saying, we didn't have insurance. There's a reason for that. I mean, like, they're portraying a very specific status of people that they are. They're working class individuals.
And that's actually kind of interesting that you bring that up because now you don't really get that in today's film because everybody has to be represented in a film. There has to be one of everybody. You can't have just the standard average something. It's got to be one of four different archetypes in America. You got to have the type A, B, C, and D. So,
Right.
um,
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
interesting. I could actually, now that you bring it up, that's a really good aspect of it. It does kind of it cements it in an era. At the time, it's made just like as a movie, and it's not really set in a specific time period, but it does lock itself in this time period. Once you think about, 2011, The Warrior, it's just interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, most definitely. It's like this is one of the reasons that I enjoyed this whole exercise of reviewing this film was because not only the MMA standpoint of it, but as a film, of course, and also exactly what you just said as an encapsulation of a time that's really, in the grand scheme of things, not that long ago, but definitely feels very long ago now.
Yeah, it kind of feels like this is in the same. I'm trying to think because I feel like this was a lot earlier, but it feels like this movie was in the same universe as Daredevil, like 2000 and whatever it
You
was. Like,
referenced Daredevil a whole lot. That must be
yeah,
like one of those touch point films for you.
I think it's like right over there. It's definitely right there behind Daddy Daycare. So he
Well,
says, well, yeah,
yeah.
so
No,
Tom Hardy. Go
yeah,
ahead.
just the one other thing that I wanted to make sure that was mentioned somewhere in here is
Mhm.
that in that part of that conversation, we also do find out that Tommy was in the Marines. So,
Yes, I did have
okay.
that one as well. Tommy was in the Marines. Mom died in Tacoma, specifically Tacoma. I don't know
Right.
what's interesting.
Well, because they're on Pittsburgh, so they went all the way across the
Okay.
country.
Okay, fair. So yeah, brutal death, no insurance, and then he says, "I liked you better when you were a drunk," and then
Yes.
passes out. So
Yeah, and keep that line in mind because that will circle back as well. But yeah, and to his credit, the good performances, and we'll talk about how good these performances are all throughout, of course. But to Nick Nolte's credit, Pops's performance here, you like the way that he holds back
mhm,
it's like it really is exactly appropriate for his character because you realize that like this is a man who obviously was in a very different state of life when he was when he was younger, when he was with the mother and with these children, and now when Tommy has given him all of this negativity, he's taken it because he knows he should take it. And I
mhm.
think that was very like I really respected the way that they portrayed that.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And what they set up here, and they start off this setting with Tommy and Pops. It's just a disgruntled household. Even though Tommy hasn't been there, what it was very broken at the time. He went away and he came back, and they're still in that state of broken. And then
Right.
you get a transition over to your other character here because we go to a birthday party, and this is where Daddy's getting face painted by daughters, and having a good time. Mom's filming. This is other end of the spectrum. This is somebody who gets to enjoy life because they were given the opportunities, and this is where you get the whole other uh half of this movie here with this other character that we haven't necessarily met yet. So go on.
Right. So I was, yeah, I just thought it was kind of funny. I said, we cut to a much happier looking place, which is Philadelphia. So,
Yeah.
yeah, Pittsburgh on one end of the spectrum, Philly on the other end, I suppose. You make of that what you will. But,
Yeah, is this supposed to be a thing I'm supposed to be getting on? You've made this joke about Philadelphia or Pittsburgh a couple different times. Like, is this like a rivalry thing going
well,
on?
definitely that.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. Philly and Pittsburgh, say
But like in a
Pennsylvania.
movie, I didn't think who gives a shit. Like that's how another thing that's probably time, coded in this. It's like
Well,
probably Philly and Pittsburgh at that time were in the Super Bowl or something, I don't
nah,
know.
no. I mean, I think that that's just one of those deals where it's they're close proximity cities in the same state that just kind of have they're both the major cities of the state sort of thing. But really, the biggest difference, as far as I understand it, at least, is that Philadelphia is like it's a brash city or whatever, but it's a little bit maybe more metropolitan. Pittsburgh is like working class, good people, great. Pittsburgh's one of my favorite places in the world, but it's dark and it's it's I don't know, more earthy, I guess is how I would describe it. Like Philadelphia, I guess is like kind of a has more of like a metro feel to it than Pittsburgh does, and that way, like that's what I'm saying. When you see the portrayal and like the grays and all that kind of stuff, I was like, accurate portrayal, like
Yeah. Hmm.
but really also from a filmmaking standpoint, you do get the Philadelphia, you get like a lot of more brightness, and as you said, we're going to be cutting to a a happy time, a birthday party kind of setting, so you see the difference between what's going on in Pittsburgh and what's going on in Philadelphia. But you had to know that it was Pittsburgh. That's also why I wanted to bring it up, is because they never gave it a credit, they never gave it text on screen. You get it for Philadelphia, but you don't get it for Pittsburgh. So
Nice.
yeah, I actually doubled back to make sure of that because I was like, wait, did they actually say that this was Pittsburgh? Nope, you just need to know.
You just gotta know. Yeah,
That's
so
right.
birthday party's going on. I actually thought, I don't know why I put time shift here. I thought it seemed like something, maybe there was like a frame change or something. It felt like to me that, okay, birthday party's over, but that was like,
It was a tonal shift, is what it was, because you get all that dark. It was nighttime at the other place, and now you're in brightness, and it was like I said, from a directing standpoint, I thought it was a nice a nice difference. It was
mhm.
a stark change and a turn. You can see that the station of life for each of these guys is much different.
Well, and then no, the time. Okay, sorry. So the time shift is, because then we cut birthday party's over. The woman's taking out the trash, and then we got the man working in the yard. This is a very cliche scene. I feel like that happens here because, she says she's heading off to work,
Oh,
and then
well, hold on. We can't skip over all of the party stuff because there's important stuff in the party.
okay,
Okay. Double back just a little bit
okay,
here.
okay. My
So,
apologies. Go ahead.
first of all, Dad's getting his face painted up, as you had mentioned,
Paint
uh,
on. Yep.
which is kind of funny because he says he's being painted like a princess, but his outfit is like the pigeon lady from Home Alone 2. Like he had like a weird down floppy sun hat going on. It was I'd say that didn't look very princess to me, but okay, maybe different representations of princesses here. But we get the present opening for the daughter. It's his daughter's birthday. We're finding out that's why the,
Okay.
the wife is filming. Dad's got a big old box, and mom, the wife, who is Jennifer Morrison, is the lady who plays her, who is one of the main characters in the show House. If you've ever seen House, that was where you might know her from, one of the main doctors on that. But so she's kind of nagging Dad about budgeting because they're obviously you set a budget and you don't budge from it. That's you set a price and you don't budge, is the why they call it a budget, she says. And I was like, this is why Nick Nolte is based, for not having women around. But yeah, so I mean, the whole idea is that he maybe spent a little bit more on this gift than she would have liked him to, insinuating that there might be money problems, which we will eventually find out what those are.
Okay, I don't know. I mean, I didn't take too much into that. I was reading it as like, man, this dude's really got it all. Like he can just splurge whenever the fuck he wants, and the wife, she can be mad all she
Well,
wants,
that's
but I'm balling out here.
exactly,
Like
and that's the impression that you might have gotten at that point, is because it's like, yeah, he does appear to have everything that you'd want in a family life. He's got kids, he's got a wife, he's doing pretty
yeah.
well. The pops had said that he's a teacher, so everything appears on the surface to be very good for this guy.
Right, which this is really good storytelling again because they're setting it up where as I'm watching it, I write it off because he's happy. This is the other end of the shit. This is the shit story, and now you have the really high up living person, whatever you want to say.
This is what happens when we actually review a well-made film on this show.
True,
you know,
true, yeah.
it just feels natural. You get information naturally. It's like all of the little nitpicking kind that. Let this be a lesson to filmmakers out there. When you present information in a natural way, people will go along with it more. You know what I mean? Like they'll let things slide more.
The last thing I want to say about this scene is how I skipped over it, and you're like, hold on, we got to talk all about it. That was not a princess outfit, and that was really funny.
Yes, yeah, no, not a princess outfit, and it just they're painting his face with like yellow. He looks like a
Yeah,
scarecrow.
yeah, they weren't really face painting; they were more just painting on his face. Like it wasn't they weren't trying to make him look like anything. They were just like, all right, you're gonna be yellow now. Your cheek's gonna be yellow, and your forehead's gonna be a trapezoid, and we're gonna go with
Pretty
it.
much, yeah. And I don't know how you extrapolate princess from that, but kids have great imaginations. Let them play.
Yeah, just don't act like you know what princesses know how to fucking wear. I mean, you're not a princess, thinker.
Right.
Come on.
That's a very good point. You're exactly right. Shame on me for that one. And should I encounter princesses in the future, maybe I'll have a better representation there.
There we go.
So yes,
So
but as you had said, we're getting to the garage now.
yeah, so the time this is a time shift. Birthday party's over. We're living in America now. We got a man working out in the yard or something like that. No, he's in the garage
In the
working
garage,
out.
yeah.
He's working out in the garage. That's what it was. And then woman's taking out the trash, and then she starts heading to work. And this is where you get a cliche line where I don't know if this is of this era, but it feels like something like that's just like a timeless cliche that we don't really get anymore. Where it's like, hey, if anybody makes trouble, you call me. I'll handle them.
Well, that's because his wife is leaving the house looking sexy as hell. Good Lord. That what he says is, where's the rest of that skirt? And I was like, yeah, I kind of agree. Man, she is, she's very leggy, and you could see that.
Right.
So yes, wife, we don't necessarily know. We know she's going to work. We don't know where she works, but he's like, yeah, if you have any trouble at where at the job, let me know. And she's like, yeah, the same way that you took care of those guys that gave you trouble at your gig or whatever. We find out that what we know about him up until this point is that he's a teacher, though. So I was like, obviously he's also like the faculty badass if he's in the garage lifting weights. And I was like, it would be funny if he was teaching kindergarten. That would be a funny twist.
Yeah, I actually think that's interesting because what we find out later about, what his career is or what he's been telling, people, they right off the bat tell us he's a teacher, and then it's supposed to be kind of like were we supposed to believe that he wasn't? That we'll get into it, but it was just kind of an interesting plot point that didn't really go anywhere, I guess.
Well, no, I mean, but it does because well, yeah, we'll get to all that part of
Yeah,
why.
go ahead.
But like again, this is when a film presents you with information and then connects the dots for you. It's like this is how you naturally watch film. You have these questions, get the answers to them in a logical and nicely progressing way. Very satisfying film viewing experience.
Yes.
So yeah, so we've got the we're in the garage. Then all that happens. And yeah, that's pretty much the end of
What
the garage scene, I think, right?
he says, "Wait up for me tonight," or something
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
well yeah, he's like every once in a while I get a little action. And she's like, hey, wait up, and maybe I can help you out with that.
Yeah, there we go. Something like that. Yeah, the cliche scene. This was like a super. This kind of felt like out of a Michael Bay film. Like this scene was a really cliche lines. I don't know. I felt
Yeah.
like this was better. They could have done better with this one. I thought, but
It's just standard movie stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's serving purposes that we'll find out about later, but it is just kind of like really. I think that this film like does a pretty decent job. We'll talk about pacing of this film a little bit later on, I would say as well, because like I think that they do a decent job of getting us to where we're eventually going, but then there's sometimes where it's like a little herky jerky, maybe.
mhm.
But
Yeah,
but so anyway, yeah. So all of that does happen, and then now we are going to just to
walk down a dark alley.
oh yeah, oh right, yes, because yeah, that's when we're cutting to a shop where some dude is watching UFC. That's where we end up after that, right? He's walking down. This is now Tommy doing this.
Yeah, walking down a dark alley, and I wrote this in the notes, but later corrected myself because I knew I was wrong, but I didn't remember that I was wrong this early. It's not John Anik on the TV. It sounds like him, but it's that old ESPN guy that passed away. I forget his name.
No, it's John Anik.
Oh, is it? Okay,
Yeah.
so okay. But later it's somebody else. It's not John Anik later.
Well, no, it is John. Okay, well, I'll tell you about it when it gets to that scene because yes, that's coming up in a little while later. But yeah, you're right on both parts.
Okay,
Actually, we'll talk
okay,
about
okay.
that.
So John
But
Anik is on the TV. Sorry. Walking by
yeah,
the
so
TV, John Anik's on it. Go ahead.
yeah, we end up going into a shop now, or what you think might be a shop. It turns out we'll say it's a gym at that point, but it's the front of a gym, and it's a dude watching. Not UFC fighting, but UFC desk analysis. I was like, damn, this dude is a hardcore, actually young looking John Anik on that old school MMA live set. This was MMA live from ESPN2, which actually stopped airing in 2011. So they got it right before it shuttered, only lasted for about a year either way.
Too bad they didn't get the movie out before they canned it because it probably could have taken off. To be like, holy shit, I can just watch John Anik whenever I want. Like, I could be just like him. But anyway, so yes, he goes in there and he's talking to the guy at the front desk of the Tap Out crew. That's what this place. That's what they're named, which is really funny. Or maybe John Anik was on the TV talking to the Tap Out
Yes.
crew. That's what it was. That's what it
Right.
was.
Now, one thing to keep in mind for this entirety of this film is that Tap Out is all over this film. And, there's many reasons for that. In 2011, Tap Out was still a huge brand. Still, Tap Out still exists. It's not as prominent in this sport, but in 2011, that era of MMA, Tap Out was the brand. If you were wearing Tap Out, that was an instantly recognizable way for you to be recognized as a fan of mixed martial arts.
I do know the brand Tap Out, but as somebody who's not really familiar with the game of pre UFC before like the Reebok shit, anything like that. When I saw Tap Out Crew, I was like, "Holy shit! They just made up some goofy ass name for this crew." I'm like, that is a goofy name. Like, you guys really were repping Tap Out Crew. Like, no wonder they went by just Tap Out, because Tap Out Crew is kind of cringe. But that's just me.
Well, yes, it's Punk and Skyscrape. Punk being one of the founders of Tap Out, and Skyscrape, a person who joined later. But yes, that is they are the representatives of the Tap Out brand. Tap Out, very very influential and important to the history of mixed martial arts.
And you say that, and I watched this movie, and like I'm a big mixed martial arts fan now, but when I watched this, I those guys aren't recognizable to me. The names didn't ring a bell. I look at it, I'm like, those are some really bad stand-ins for MMA fighters for this tap out crew. Like, I thought this was a crew of people that taps people out. Like, I'm like, who the fuck are these guys? Like,
No,
so
they were the dudes that started the MMA clothing brand. This is the history, Chase. This is the stuff that
okay,
when you get deeper in, they know your history kind of thing. But now this is a fine introduction to it. So now maybe
yes.
you look into Tap Out a little bit more. But
So
not only
go
did you get that, though, you also got MMA Live. Like I said, the show that only aired on ESPN2 for very little amount of time, came over from the internet. They got a little bit of time on actual television. This is way before any coverage, in a broad sense of like what we have now. I mean, entire UFC coverage, like the full channel on YouTube kind of thing. I mean, they probably had a YouTube channel, but not the way that we get the coverage now.
Yes. So what they're on TV talking about this Grand Prix tournament. This is the Super Bowl of MMA, and there's a $5 million purse on the line for it. And then this is where Tommy walks into the gym. Tom Hardy's character. I don't know why he's Tom Hardy. It is just kind of funny. But
I
either
had
way,
that in the notes too. Yeah, it is funny because there's another character that has the names. I think
yes.
they might have written this film with people in mind, kind of thing.
Yeah, I agree. I don't remember who it is off the top of my head, but there's somebody else
I'll
who is
tell you.
named. Yeah, either way, named the same. Or anyway, $5 million purse. Tommy walks into the gym, and then he asks if the old boss is here. I forget his name, but it could be Mister Maserati or something like
Mhm.
that. And the guy's like, "No, I don't even know who that is. Like, you're fucking who are you? Who are you, guy?" And then Tommy asks to sign up, and that's about just how it goes right there.
Yeah, well, I want to point something out about the guy he's talking to. It is an Asian gentleman with a faux hawk, and he's watching the MMA live, right? This guy in this film, all he does is watch MMA analysis. That is
Hmm.
this guy's entire character in this film. He's the front desk guy, and he is every time that you see him in this film, he's watching MMA in some capacity. He's never training. He's never doing anything else. You see him one other time when he calls back to somebody from the desk. So he's still at the front desk, but he is front desk guy, and front desk guy watches MMA live. That's what he does.
Throwback in the era of haircuts. I mean, this game or this movie has a lot of interesting ones, and this guy's got one, and then we'll talk about somebody later in the fight. Later in the movie has got an interesting one too for the time. Excuse
True.
me, but yeah, and then this is where, so after and anything else for this scene?
Well, I just wanted
Okay.
to reiterate that yes, well, from what you get out of the MMA Live segment is that we've got the Sparta promotion, the Grand Prix format, as you had
Yes.
mentioned. It's bringing it to it had not been in the United States, at least in the world of this film. 2010 is a long way removed from the 2000 Pride Grand Prix. Either this guy has been holding on to the concept for a very long time, or it took a while to get the script filmed, is what my note was. But either way, because yeah, Pride Grand Prix was in 2000. Of course, this is 2010 when this film was probably getting made. And yes, I said he's talking to the Tap Out crew. They say it's the Super Bowl of MMA, as you said, $5 million purse. I said that it's funny to see anything tap out anything from this era, tap out still being a thing that you can get at Kohl's, but like nowhere near what it was back then. So just reiterating those points, because obviously this tournament's going to be very important.
Yes. So that's it. We're good.
Yes, yeah, yeah, that's about that.
Moving on from the right side of the equation, which is Tommy, we're going back to the left side of the equation, which I don't think at this point do we learned this character's name yet?
No, I'm glad that you said that, because for a while there, I was trying to figure out when we actually found out what this dude's name was,
Hmm.
because it, like with Tommy, you get like, hey, Tommy, you get that directly at the very beginning of the film. We just sort of, throughout by midway through the film, you're just like, oh yeah, okay, now I know what his name is. You know
Right.
what I mean? Just like,
Yeah, they might have said it on like a commentary thing later, and like that was the first time. But yeah, it's weird. So anyway, high school teacher. We have the science class. That we have the fun teacher. He's we're just doing shit. Fuck it. There's a stupid kid or whatever. How many laws this dude got talking
oh
about
yeah.
Isaac Newton? That was really funny.
Well,
Science
yeah,
class is back.
we started off. We're introduced to this classroom setting, yeah, and this is exactly how you know he is the fun teacher. Everybody's got goggles on, and he's teaching them about acceleration and force by letting one kid break a wooden block with a baseball bat. That's the idea about the force and the acceleration is enough to break the block of wood with the bat. And yeah, everybody's having a grand old time in this dude's class. You can tell that you wanted to be in Joel Edgerton's class if you were in this high school.
Facts. If he did one thing in this movie, I mean, he did a lot well, but portraying a fun high school science teacher, I mean, he might as well go get a degree or something, dude. Go to college and become a professor. You get plenty of people to go fucking take a course if you're gonna do shit like that. I mean,
Yeah, I
crazy.
mean, well, we'll find out later. All the kids having a good time. He has a connection with these
True.
kids, which is nice. I mean, like, you love to see it, kind of thing. But yeah, that was kind of funny with the dude Isaac Newton. I picked up on that too. And then he chides a girl for texting in class. The bell rings, and then he's deciding to hand out the test results. I was like, hey, time management, dude. You're
Yeah.
you're a teacher here. You got to be on top of this situation. You can't just be keeping these kids from their next period.
You always know it's a movie and it's a good movie or a bad movie when the bell rings right before he's about to do something. He's like,
Right.
"Oh, all right, class, we got to do it again tomorrow." Like the bell rings right when it's always right in the middle of something. It's never the teacher like, "All right, we got 5 minutes left. You guys can just hang out. Well, it's gonna ring in a second." That's how my
Yeah.
classes ended up being. But
Yeah, well, and we're going to talk about when we get to the MMA portion of this story, when you actually start seeing the fighting and stuff, some of the beats that we've seen in a couple of these other films, and you're like you were saying about like that with being like a thing that just has to happen in films sometimes, because it's like, yeah, the scene needs to end. You can do something right at the very end if you're going to or not or whatever, but the bell signals the end of the scene. So it's like, yeah, it doesn't make sense for him to like do something unless there is a specific point for it. There doesn't make sense for him to do something that he normally would, and then the bell rings. It's like the bell rings, time to move on kind of thing.
yeah,
With the MMA stuff, it's like a couple of things that like move things forward will happen. And you're like, would that necessarily be as realistic as it could be? Maybe you give it a little bit of a pass because it's a movie, but we see the same similar beats from other ones, and there's a reason for it.
yeah. So anything else with the bell rings? Anything else you got there?
Nah, we're
Okay.
moving on.
So we're back to the other side of the equation to Tommy. Tommy's at the gym, and we got some sparring. We got some coaches yelling, light sparring. And then he knocks the dude out unconscious. Very funny. Very funny, very funny. Knocks him out cold. Tommy's looking over and notices this. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say that like he's in this gym by himself. He's hitting the heavy bag by
Hmm.
himself, and his gym is like kind of a free range environment. Like everybody's sort of just training in little like clusters if they want, or like maybe individually like he is. But it's open because this gym is fucking massive, by the way. I don't know if you noticed how tall this was, like a warehouse, but like a huge one. This gym is really, really big. Definitely compared to like, I don't know how. I'm sure that there are plenty that are that large. I'm sure like American Top Team's got gyms that big or whatever, but like the locals that train around me, like I've seen the MMA gyms in town, and they are nowhere near as big as this. This is a very large gym.
Yeah, but you got the vibes that this is the grunge. These are the guys that are working for it. They're not there because they got $1 million. No, they're there to just let some energy out and punch a heavy bag. And if they find somebody that'll spar with them, sure. But light spar means you get knocked unconscious by this guy. So
Knocked unconscious by a spinning elbow, by the way, as well. This dude light sparring my fucking nuts. What are you talking about, dude?
yeah,
Yes, dude is in the ring, Muay Thai sparring, and the coach is telling him to go light. Proceeds to spinning elbow knock out his sparring partner.
yes,
Definitely gym bully activity. His I like that after he did that, all of his boys, he's got his entourage there on the apron, and he's just dapping up the homies afterwards, like true dickbag behavior.
yeah.
Yeah,
No,
exactly. Just down the
absolutely.
line.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Very, very funny. So Tommy obviously is across the gym and he notices this and he's intrigued. He goes over to the coach, that was overseeing this fighter and he says, I can keep your boy warm, I can keep him active, and the coach is like, yeah, okay, head on back to your heavy bag, take your ass on. And Tommy's like, all right, cool. And so he walks away for a minute and then I believe let me double check. Previous fighter, he's good to go. If he's
Well, because he
hurt,
got he got the waiver. He was
oh,
asking, like,
okay,
he
yes.
said, have you fought before? He says yes, because he goes away, but then he's like trying to get somebody else to come in. He's going to pay him $200 to get somebody else down there. Couldn't get the guy on the phone, so that he's like, hey, I'll do it. Like, let me do
I'm
it.
I must have missed that part of it because I at the end with the $200, that is the immediate callback to that. I didn't
Right.
catch that first
Exactly.
part
Yeah.
where he was, looking around for somebody for $200. So anyway,
Correct.
Tommy, gets the call and he asks if he's a previous fighter or whatever, and then he gets the waiver to sign and or he already signed the waiver at the door. So he asks if he's good to go. He's good. If he gets hurt, it's on him. Doesn't
And
matter.
I said instantly, seeing this setup, I was like, smoker incoming. This is going to
Yeah,
be a smoker fight. No two ways about it. Also did want to just real quickly circle back to the hooligan gang. I forgot to mention. Did you notice the guy in the hooligan gang, like his entourage crew, the bully guys crew, the one dude who was tatted like full body tattoo dealy. He's got
nice.
the dollar sign on his cheek.
Yeah, no,
Okay,
I probably did, but like I just realized like this is if you remember, think back to the final episodes of our review of The Cage.
correct.
This is John Jones's gym. Like this is exactly
Bingo.
where Tommy is training. So
There's
I
there
I didn't
actually
surprise me.
there are actually a couple of things that you can tell that the cage was like influenced by from this film, and yeah, that definitely was one that stuck out a little bit for sure.
Yeah, I can actually, we'll talk about it later, of course, but there's a lot of other things that I think this film was influenced by, and then there's some things that it was influencing, of course, later
Of course,
down the
yeah,
line. So
absolutely. Yeah, most definitely. But so yeah, so now we're going to go into this sparring session, which we know, of course, is going to be a smoker fight. Clock beeps. Tom Hardy throws his entire body into a teep kick to start this thing. I thought that was pretty funny.
it was funny. There are some scenes where they're trying to portray, but this is not a movie that is predicated on showing you the mixed martial arts inside of the cage. You unfortunately do not get a good visual for a lot of things that are going on with this movie. A lot of close shots, a lot of quick cuts. They'll give you one or two instances where you're supposed to just imagine what he's doing for the rest of it, and then you're getting a lot of shoulder and like arm moving, and then like it's just not the best. Or, for example, in this, so obviously he does the Spartan kick. He just kicks him because Tommy's character is he just runs in there like a bull and just goes balls to the wall. So
Mhm.
he kicks him. Like I noted, not great fight scenes to start. Some few good shots, of course, from Tommy. Punches him up a little bit, and then we get the WWE moves. That's what's part of this movie as well.
That is my one of my absolute biggest criticisms of this film. It has to be. Yeah, it has to be because it really it's specific to when there are up and over tosses. They do suplexes in this film way more than you'd ever actually see in active competition. First of all, okay, we see suplexes every once in a while, but they do the most exaggerated airtime for this shit. I said, what? Hold on a second. I said I had. Um, Hardy takes the dude's back. They get up, and Tom hits the biggest WWE level up and over side suplex on the bully the world has ever known. The amount of air this bully got was like a stuntman on wires level. Movie is Warrior. The dude Tommy is going Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah, so the thing is, And I think this is just you. I think this is you being biased against pro wrestling, because what you got to understand is it is selling a fight. If they use it in a movie with mixed martial arts, I mean, wrestling is a mixed martial arts. I mean, they're selling the portrayal of a fight in a movie. Obviously, they're not even showing the actuality of what the martial arts is, like when it comes to striking or anything like that. If they can show a whole WWE move and get away with it, and like that looks good on camera, I mean, that's a plus in my opinion. If you want to be getting down to the nitty
I
gritty of
mean,
it.
I think that you're going biased the other way then, because
No, I
I
mean, it's goofy, but, like, it's the one thing that they could fully show, you know? Like, they couldn't show any, like, so
well
continuing on, he WWE moves him, moves and then, knees him and then finishes the guy, and it's like they didn't show any of the knees, they didn't show barely any of the grappling, the striking they couldn't really show. It's like, it the one thing they could show was the WWE move. It's like, I mean.
they showed a good amount of kicks early on in the spar, like after the Spartan kick.
Mhm.
They showed a good amount of kicking that was back and forth, but like that was kind of slightly choreographed looking. But I gave that a pass. I'm okay with all of the portrayal of the fighting generally, aside from the suplexing stuff and the airtime. That's really
Yeah, we'll
because
get to more of it, of
of
course.
and that's every single time. It's the one thing that was like, why do you have to do that? That it takes me out of it a little bit as an MMA fan. But really, aside from that, I thought like I'm okay with most of the fight portrayals in this. And then when we finally get towards what we're leading up to, I thought that there were some really good ones in that. So
Yeah.
and I think that really why I'm kind of dwelling on it here now is because this is really the first time we've seen any fighting in this film.
Mhm.
So aside from a very, very brief clip of wrestling that you see on the television earlier on in the Pops' house, but that's very, very brief. So this is the first time this is the first representation of actual back and forth exchanges with in a fight capacity, and you're already doing that kind of thing. I was like, if you're gonna do some stuff like that, you really probably should build up to it as opposed to thrusting it in your face early on in the
Have
first
the
2 minutes.
power bomb be the finisher in the movie, but would
Ramp
that would
that,
really be worse, to be honest. If you got the whole movie, you're watching like, "Man, that was the coolest striking ever," and then he fucking did a 619 in the end? What? Like,
I mean, you think that maybe a little bit of a ramp up might be appropriate, but then you could go that way as well with it. It's like maybe just don't like just make it a more grounded MMA film. It would have been fine. I mean, really, because
I
everything else is working.
I think, at the time, people didn't know how to showcase that I mean, MMA movies, mixed martial arts films in general have been made for centuries or whatever, but I think the director probably just didn't know how to film or direct people to do a better choreographed fight. Because, like you said, with the kicks, a lot of them were choreographed, more or less. And I think those are a little easier than straight up punches to the face kind of deal. So, give or take. I mean, whatever. The
Well, I
grappling
can't
also was decent.
But I can't think that like this is the film that everyone says is the film for exactly what you're talking about here. So I got because if this one is not the film that shows it, we got to find the movie that actually is the
It's
accurate
like the
MMA
fucking old fucking Chuck Norris and Bruce Lee shit. You
that
know,
accurate to MMA.
no, I mean not MMA, but like showcasing martial arts. Sure, fuck it. I don't know. I mean,
No,
we can't
yeah,
even see it clearly in this
but
shit
that's what
right
I'm
here.
saying. I mean, like we see it there later on. Later on,
Yeah.
we'll keep going here, and we'll get towards some of that other stuff that we're kind of talking about, I guess.
Okay, so other side of the spectrum, we get to our unnamed character still, at the loan consultant, and
Well, just like you said though,
okay.
just to finish this up real quick. So yeah, the knees, and then finally that
Oh
looping
yes,
shot that
yes.
ends
Sorry.
him, puts him into the ropes. He knocks this dude clean out. He's hanging off the ropes, kind of
Mhm.
clean out this bully guy. And then Tommy does have that cold line to the trainer where he looks him in the eyes and like, "You owe me $200." And I
Yeah,
was like,
hell yeah.
that actually did go hard. Yes, continue.
Yeah, so the next scene we go to the loan consultant, and this is where we start to learn that our character, not named Tommy, is struggling as well. And he's not necessarily in the clear when it comes to money. The dude is being an asshole to him basically. Like, this is a typical dude who doesn't want to give people money because they have to have specific reasonings for him to understand that he can have empathy or something, because he drops this line, what did they say? Oh no, sorry, the unnamed character, Mr. Edgerton, at this time drops the line, so I'm a physics teacher, not a math teacher or something like that, which is really funny or something like that. I have it in the notes. I can't remember what it was. Now I think about it, it wasn't as funny because it was kind of like him being a dick and responding to him like, okay, dude, I'm not a math teacher. I teach physics, because he's trying to be condescending, like, well, you should know that you're, obviously negative. Like, don't you know how to do math? You're a fucking math teacher. He's like, no, I teach physics, and you're supposed to help me, not be a fucking asshole. So
See, this is my so talking about the plight of the working man kind of deal here. This is one of my favorite scenes in this film, from a film standpoint, obviously MMA aside. So yes, as you're saying, Edgerton is in the bank. He is upside down on his mortgage, is what we're learning in this scene. He's talking to a banker one on one. And because of a property reappraisal or something along those lines, the banker saying that you're upside down on the mortgage. The banker is treating him like fairly, but also impersonally. You're saying that he's being a dick. I loved this scene because this is like I see it from both sides, and I'm not saying that he should be treating him impersonally, but at the same time, he's doing his job as a banker. His job is like kind of a shitty job, and it puts him in a shitty position. He's trying to be as empathetic as he can, but he even says himself, the banker, he's like, a lot of stories. And I was like, man, you really just nailed it right there with that, because it sucks. It sucks that like the banker is in that position. It sucks that Edgerton is in that position. We also learn throughout the course of this thing that he was under money constraints because his daughter has a heart condition that he had to pay some money for. Again, plight of the working man stuff here. Between him and his wife, they're working 3 jobs. This is all coming out through the course of this conversation. This movie is a pretty scathing indictment of the U.S. medical industry, I said.
yeah, so you get some other good lines too. I thought that he was dropping. He's like, I don't need the bank's help. I need your help. Like
Right.
that was a good one. He's like, you have 2 mortgages, and he's like, yeah, but I only did that because you said that would be like you advised me to get both of those mortgages, and
Hey, buddy, I gave you the option, my
yeah,
man. I see, I presented you with a number of options. That's the one you chose. And he's
yeah,
like, well, yeah, I kind of needed that money, because he was like, oh, you got a lot of money from the refinancing of all of that or whatever. And he's like, I needed that money because the daughter, and he was like, oh, daughter with, what was it? Kidneys? And he was heart
yeah.
condition. And again, impersonal, but like, can you really put that much on the banker? Maybe that this really kind of, like I said, an indictment of the banking industry as well, where it's like, yeah, we don't, do you know your banker's name? You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like, it's like, you don't have personal relationships with these people. Like, in fact, this guy has a more personal relationship with this banker who's impersonal to him than I've ever had with anyone in a bank before. So,
True.
so it's like, yeah, but so it's a very real and human scene. I like this scene a lot.
And then he gives him a deadline, 90 days. And then, he says, dude, 90 days. We have 3 jobs between us.
Right.
Like, it ain't enough. And then he says, you could always, go, you could just do the bankruptcy option. There's no shame in it. People have pride and they can do bankruptcy. Donald Trump did it. Why wouldn't you?
Right, yeah, really. He should have dropped that bar. How prophetic that would have been later on. But yes, they're facing either foreclosure of their house or bankruptcy, and he didn't want. That's not how I do things, is what he says. He's got too much pride for bankruptcy. But my point was, under the circumstances, now obviously we know that he's got another option, but it's like, if he was in that position, just take the bankruptcy, bro. I mean, at least you'll be able to keep the house, and you can always rebuild after that. It's a tanks your credit of whatever. I mean, we're getting a little bit too real world on this, I suppose, but bankruptcy under his condition, with the way that everything was laid out, might have been the better option, but of course he does not take that option.
Yeah, not to get too crazy. I'm pretty sure with bankruptcy, I mean, they have to leave you with a house and a car, like, and a job, like,
Yes, they cannot take your house at the very homesteading is that part of that. So yeah, he would leave, because that was his whole thing. Is he's like, I'm not losing the house. We're not losing the house. We're not going backwards. He says with his wife a little bit later. We'll get to that, but that was his whole idea. Is like, he's built this life for him with his wife and the kids, and he doesn't want to lose his house, but he also does not want to take the bankruptcy. I was like, I mean, might have been an okay thing to do, but we'll find out why.
so option was still on the table. It's not like it's gone now. He walked out the door, but he got the leaflets. He can think it over. Either
I
way,
guess it's
we'll
a good
get
point. I
into
didn't
it.
think about that. It wasn't like there was an ultimatum in that moment. So
He's
yeah,
got 90 days.
it's a good point. Good point. All right. So
So anyway, scene ends. He leaves. He's frustrated. Anyway, now we go back to this is where we finally get back to Nick Nolte. We get the Pops character,
right.
and he's sitting here. He's eating a TV dinner or something. I forget what it is, but,
Hmm.
he's watching Tommy's old film, he's watching this young wrestler, and he's like, "Wow, what a stud this kid," he's thinking to himself like, "Man, what talents that this kid used to have, like, what he used to be capable of when he put his mind to something, like how genetically gifted he could have been." All these things are going through his head, and then the doorbell rings. Hmm. And this is where I think you should know that this is where perception is key, because if you were watching this movie, you would know that the person knocking at the door is the coach from the gym. But if you're me, you watch this and you say, "That's the dude that owes him 200 fucking dollars. Where was he doing here? Where he better have his goddamn money."
For real, you better be
Yeah,
coming in with a couple of bills tightly wadded up for me, pal.
yeah.
But yeah, no, you absolutely right. Actually, so yeah, to my previous point about that the smoker fight being the first time that we saw fighting in the film, that actually is because yes, I didn't remember the order, but this is the first when we see that wrestling footage I was talking about. So yeah, so the other one was the absolute first time. But yes, he's watching old footage of Tommy from his freestyle wrestling. And I said, it really sucks that Nolte was a prick earlier in his life because he seems awesome to me right now. He's got the life that I want to have when I am his age. Like
Well, you got to now you see what you got to do to attain it, dude.
God, yeah, I hope I never have to go through half of what was insinuated for that. But other than that, it seems pretty. He got a house, got himself a nice house. He's
He's
living,
got a TV stand, like dinner
brother.
stand.
I'm already halfway there. I feel like with a lot of this, but so yeah, but you hear on that freestyle wrestling footage, the announcer is referencing Tommy, so we assume that he's watching Tommy's old wrestling footage. Solid base for MMA, regardless of what the guru says, because that wrestling was very, very good. It actually will. I'll tell you about some trivia. I've got a bunch of trivia for this one. But the wrestling footage that they have is from an actual wrestler who went on to be very successful in wrestling. So
Nice.
good looking footage. And yes, then we have this scene where he gets the visit from the coach.
Yeah, so he gets a visit from the coach, and he says, he asks Pops, does Tommy live here? Tommy Reardon is what we got. We actually get the first and last name.
Correct.
Tommy told him, or maybe he just wrote it down, and maybe that's what the manager read or whatever. So Tommy Reardon, where is he at? He beat up the number one contender in the world. Is what was dropped here. So this was the best guy on the planet. Think about that. We haven't even made it to Mars yet in 2011, and they already knew that Tommy Reardon was the baddest man on the planet after beating this guy in a sparring session. After WWE choke slamming him, they were like, "That guy's it." So
Yeah.
Pops just, he don't live here. Don't know what you're talking about. Leave. If you have $200 though, I will take it gladly. But he did not. He did not get it. So
Yeah, it doesn't. No conversation about the money, but I did think it was a slightly odd. They talk about that interaction a little bit later, and we can kind of touch on it there too. But he was like oddly cold to this guy. I thought but I don't know.
no,
I
I
mean,
think this was fine.
okay,
This is
fair enough
this, this
then.
is how I would expect, and this is how my father would probably like. Ooh, fuck! Who are you
Yeah,
asking for? What are you doing?
right.
You don't know
He was
Tommy
certainly
Reed.
skeptical of him. Yeah, I
And
understand. But the
also,
guy
when
kind of
he
explained it in a way that made sense to me. He was like, "Hey, look, dude, I'm not trying to interrupt your evening here. He put the address down on the piece of paper. I'm just asking some questions." Like,
I think also a key thing to that, and this is just layers to the character. He heard Tommy Reardon.
mm,
He lied to him for a reason. Like
true. Good point. Yeah.
if he didn't call him Tommy something something. He obviously wasn't chummy with the guy. So
And if you were paying very, very keen attention, which I mean, probably have to be on multiple viewings to have caught it earlier on, but we did find out earlier that Pops's last name is Conlon. So
oh
there is, yeah. So that's a little bit of a difference there. So what you're saying does kind of make sense in that regard as well.
yeah, but no, I thought this was a really good. This is where Nick Nolte's performance as Pops is like really starting to like. You see the layers like, oh, he is like he doesn't like not give a shit. Like he does have like that care. Like, so whoever's asking about Tommy, like if I don't know him, if he lied to him about something, then you ain't here for a good reason.
True.
Hit the road, Jack.
Yeah.
So
Gotcha.
I really like that subtleness in the performance, if that's what it was, because
Oh yeah.
it was on the nose for me.
Sure.
Rather than
Yeah.
a
I get
cold performance, I guess, but
right.
or
Right.
cold to the character. But either way. Let's see.
So
Where are we at? Wait,
we're cutting to the greatest strip club name of all time. We are going to the Tender Trap.
oh yes. So what is actually funny, and this is I guess where we get the first name drop. because we pull into we get the car pulling in for the next job is what I have it listed at here. The fight is starting. We got Mike the Mutilator, and then I think this is where we finally get the name drop because I think they say Brendan the teacher is.
Well, yeah. So it's just to set this up a little bit more. Yeah. So we see a neon sign. It's the strip, a stereotypical kind of strip club sign with the girl on it or whatever. And it's the tender trap. I said, has a somewhat slightly different meaning in 2025 with the trap part, but
I,
leave that to the side.
I
Uh,
think what's also key to note, just because this is just differences that we have.
mhm.
If you would have, I didn't know until they have to say it later. I didn't know this was supposed to be like I looked at the name, but I didn't really like get like a strip club vibe. This was just
Well,
neon lights and
because
a
what
parking
will
lot vibes to me.
that's the thing is that we never actually go into this strip club. It's the
Yes.
parking lot of a strip club, but the girl on the pole didn't give it away that it
Uh,
was the.
Maybe I was just like I'm like parking lot car. I mean, maybe it just looked normal to me. I mean, I guess all those places have poles and women on top of them
I
around
mean, well,
here.
when you're as deep in the trenches in that strip club life as you are, Chase,
Yes,
maybe it's just second nature.
yes.
This still yet to be named brother pulls up to this strip club. He's on the phone with what we assume is his kid. He says, put your mom back on the phone, whatever he says. They're having an open mic night, but it's actually an open fight night, is what we find out. Because yes, there's they're in this parking lot here, and it's actually a pretty decent fight setup in this
Hmm.
parking lot. They got screens in the back to
They
show
got
you
a
the action.
tent,
They got a tent. It's under a tent. It's got a nice little screen, like I said, and they got an announcer. I said,
chairs.
this is the most professional strip club parking dealie that you're gonna get for a fight situation. I said the strip club has an announcer. Oh shit, family man brother is fighting. Also, it has a referee. The Pennsylvania Athletic Commission sanctioned this strip club MMA fight.
Oh my goodness, yeah. So this point is definitely an interesting way to start this scene, and because up until this point, this is our teacher character. This is the high school teacher, the physics teacher, and the one who's down on his luck and looking for a way to get paid. And for what we know, I don't know if it's explicitly said, but what we're supposed to be believing, or at least what he's telling his wife up at this till this point, is that he's a bouncer after work. And this is what he's doing in the meantime. So it's a slow night. There shouldn't be anything going on, is what he's telling her. Hangs up, but it's actually a fight night, like you said. So
Exactly. And
we
also,
get in.
as for me too, I did have in the notes here, this is also when I picked up that his name is Brandon. I did not know that up
Yes.
until this point too. So
I think maybe she said, "I love you, Brendan," or something,
if it
something
was,
like
it was
that.
a very passing mention at best.
I also would like to note that in my notes, I was typing quick. It comes up Brandon. It comes up Brendan. I may say Brandon a lot. I don't
Oh
know.
yeah, whatever. You'll know who we're talking about. This is
Yeah.
the teacher.
So anyway, Mike the Mutilator versus Brendan the Teacher is, I'm pretty sure that's where we get it, is the commentator drops it right there, which kind of makes sense. Like it kind of is like a big moment, I guess, since we haven't heard it up until then. It's like Brendan and then it's like the teacher. I
I
don't know.
mean, I could see someone using the teacher as a nickname and actually making it kind of hard though.
Mhm. True.
Like
Yeah.
I'm going to teach you a lesson right now, kind of thing.
Yeah. No, that's actually pretty fire. But so anyway, this fight is about to start. We don't get a glove touch. We do not get a glove touch in this one. We get a decent scramble. Once again, not the best visuals is what I have here. Striking and clinch work, hard to see because what they're trying to do is they're putting a lot of it behind a blurred out person's head, and then they'll move the camera through the crowd, or they'll zoom in super close, and then you're supposed to just understand that a guy's arm being pulled by another one is like he's on top of him now doing something. But you know, if you don't, what's crazy is when I watch it, like I understand what they're trying to go for because I can I can imagine, I can put it together. But if I didn't understand what moves they were trying to, show me without actually being able to show them, I feel like casual audiences are probably like, just like stun locked at what they're witnessing. Like they're not understanding that he's like, oh, he's doing a Grammy roll. Oh, he's going taking his back. Because like there's a lot of even in the later on, especially with the final sequences, uh, there's a lot of like quick action moments that they're doing just like MMA moves that you're just supposed to be like, oh, they're just chain wrestling, but they're actually doing just like heel hooks, go to fucking leg lock, and then switch over and get half guard. Like they're just doing the main things that you would see in the fight, I guess. But
But I mean, I think that that's good then, right? Because then that shows that for people who actually are in the know, that they can pick up on what those actually are supposed to be. But the average audience is probably just going to see it as MMA and be like, "Oh, okay. I mean, that's what I would assume MMA is, right?"
would see it as MMA though. I think because they're doing such a bad job of portraying anything that the casual audience would be able to like understand and see because it's too quick and too fast and too much of the imagination going with it. Like I can
Eh,
fill in the blanks, but I don't think if my mom was watching it, she'd be like, "Wow, that was a really good double leg takedown that he just did right
well,
there."
but that they wouldn't know they would be looking for anyway, though. Like
I mean,
they're not going to see that and be like, "Oh, that could have looked better because they
but
have a
they do the
frame of."
WWE moves and they'd be like, "He just picked him up and slammed him on his head." You know, like it's you know,
I guess. I mean, I can kind of see, I guess, what you're saying, but I
it's
think
like
that this was say.
a trip like where he did like they literally in this fight right here he literally just they strike and clinch and then they do like just like a takedown and then he takes mount instantly and it's like somebody watching it it's like they're not understanding what that means to the position of the fight I guess but like as I don't know I
Well,
think
I mean, I think that as a human being, you know that you don't want to have somebody, sitting on your chest punching you.
but the way that they would have got to that position is unbeknownst to the casual viewer. You know, they're not getting explained to them how that could have happened, and that's just that's what this movie is. It's actually more for the casual audiences in that regard, is because they don't, you know, they don't need to show it, and they don't have to, and they didn't, and they still got their point across. So it is what it is. But either way, so we get a nice takedown. Like I said, he takes mounts. The visuals are hard to see. Things are shown again. I just noticed. This is where I have in the notes. Just noticed. Brendan looks like Chael Sonnen.
There are similarities there for sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think that's kind of what they were going for. I don't know if I'm listen. I think they tried to make him look almost like Chael Sonnen. I don't know, but that's just me because
I
like
mean, that
once
just might be his face.
you're not wrong, but like in this moment, like I remember I had to make a point. Like holy shit, I'm watching the movie of Chael Sonnen right now. But either way, uh, yeah, he wins
Well,
the fight. Yeah, he submits him. I'm pretty sure, right? Is this where he submits him
well,
as well?
let me go through
Yeah,
my
go
notes
ahead.
on this, and we'll come to that conclusion. I think because yeah, I said that I appreciate this backyard under a tent dealie that they got going on for this fight. Definitely of the time regional scene fighting, and sometimes of now time fighting as well on the regional scene. Still, because you might know that I commentated for Real Cage Fighting here in Florida. We were out, we were at a venue, but like out open air outside. I mean, it definitely had the same vibes of that. And I was like, okay, I can feel that. I think that this is a good representation of that level of fighting that he would be fighting at in this type of capacity. So I was like, okay with that. His opponent, I said, was a jacked plumber looking guy with a balding horseshoe and good traps. So I said, good dude there with that. One solidarity dude in shades booing Irish Brendan. I said yes, because the crowd, this was an interesting filmmaking aspect of it. Like, because he was not in his hometown, I guess, because he had to drive to wherever he was, like for some reason they had the crowd cheering, like you see the crowd actively cheering, but they like piped in booze later on because when he finally beats this guy, I guess that guy was supposed to be like the hometown guy. So it was just an odd like filmmaking choice there. You probably just could have just left in the cheering and it would have been fine. But I was like, this is the regional scene. He probably borrowed this dude's lawnmower at some point. You know what I mean? Like these guys are probably like, like, they don't necessarily. There's not like I don't think that anybody was like like that this guy would have had like a steadfast fan base necessarily. But on the other side of that, regional fighters, those are the people that come to see them or they're steadfast fans. So I'll let that one slide too. They hold on, going through this a little bit. I took a lot, I guess, more like detailed notes on some of these things. So they do end up touching gloves after the first instructions, but then he refuses to touch when the fight starts. I thought that
Yeah.
was kind of funny. Bro is taking the strip club parking lot fight very seriously. I said the run starts now for this guy.
Now
Uh,
that you mentioned the glove touch thing, I think that's somewhat of a callback to the final because, like, that's I think that happens with the end of the movie. But
Could be
go
too,
on.
yeah. So I said that the fight starts. They kind of break dance in front of each other for a minute. The plumber gets kind of he gets kind of mad at a feint that like he like sort of just like looks at the feint and is kind of angry about it. And
Can I,
then
I?
yeah.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but I think because you have more detailed things about the fight sequences. I think I completely just like when it came to the fight sequences, I didn't even give them like too much of a chance because they were so mind-boggling. And I know it goes back to what I was just saying, but like when I was watching, I'm like, I can't even like begin to process what I'm supposed to be seeing or what they want me to be seeing because I'm not able to see it. But go on. So
I mean,
I
I don't know though, because like I mean, I'm following. I have it all broken down like piece by piece here. So I mean, I was able to follow it pretty decently. You know, I'm seeing like I have in here that they were trading. I said striking looks nice on both sides. Dad, the Brandon guy hits the second cartoony pickup and drop down takedown of the movie. That was another. Yeah, again, every single fight in this film has one of these. It feels like at least any of the ones that are actually like full on fights. Bro double legs the this plumber guy so hard that he went vertical on top like he was doing the high dive. I said. So yeah, I mean, he ends up getting the mount. He lands like 8 unanswered shots before the ref finally steps in. So no, he didn't submit him. He knocked him out on the ground. Young Kerry Hatley must have been watching that stoppage and
nice.
smiling to himself.
Yes. So, and anything else there before we move on? Yeah, because
Oh, just the thing about the crowd booing sound effects were just weird, and then
yeah,
also
that is
that the promoter looks like Captain Lou Albano.
it. But so with the crowd thing, the while you said that, and because you said at the beginning there wasn't a title card for what city he was supposed to be in, I think that was obviously a post change. Like they were like, okay, well maybe it's not Pittsburgh yet, but at the time, but they forgot to add where it was, and then the boos were going to be like, well, we had him cheering because it was a regional thing, and then they're going to meet up at the Grand Prix or whatever, so it doesn't matter where they come from,
Well,
but.
true, and also you make a great point there too, because what we will find out eventually later on, I think that sets up Brandon being the underdog, which will be called back to a little bit later as well. So I think you make a good point there. It probably was a post decision, but it just seemed a little bit strange, like if you're really zeroing in on it.
Yeah, 100%. Which actually, I'm kind of, yeah, I'm glad you noticed that because that is weird. I wonder if you noticed anything more like that. But either way,
Sure.
so he finally comes home. He's got some wounds. He's been roughed up a little bit.
Oh, well,
And
actually, no. One other thing too.
okay,
Sorry. One other thing that with the why I had the promoter note in there is because dude wins his fight. This was a decently tough fight to an extent. He's sitting there, he's huffing and puffing. Promoter comes over and says, "Hey, great job, dude. Win 2 more fights and you'll get the dough." Like, bro has to
mm,
be fighting multiple fights in a night. I was like, Jesus Christ, man, that's kind of wild. But so anyway, yeah, this is that level, I guess. Strip club parking lot, 2000 Pride Grand Prix as well, I guess.
yeah, no, that one's definitely tough. And so presumably, because that actually adds a little more depth to it. Because when he comes home, and he's got some wounds, I was thinking to myself like he didn't really get beat up in that last one. Like that doesn't really add up. But the fact if he would had to fight 2 more after that, that would make sense. For him to actually win and get the money. So obviously, wife she gets up out of bed, and she comes into the bathroom and sees the wound. And he told her that how do I have it here? He told her he was a bouncer, and truth's out, but I made some money, so big whoop. I'm a fighter instead of a bouncer. It's the same dealio. So shout out to me for being a big brain genius and getting us money. And it
Yeah.
is what it is.
Well, she say, yeah, he's like, I'm not bouncing in a club. Sorry, honey, you married a mixed martial arts science teacher is what we're getting out of this now. But he also gives her the money at the time too. So it's like, how do you weigh all of that? Well, she ends up, not taking that very well is what ends up, being the case here because I said, damn, wife is making some solid arguments. She doesn't want a husband who kicks ass for, gets beat up for a living. She says, loses the house or she said you can lose the house for all she cares, but dad can't get punched in the face for a living. Like, she doesn't want to raise a family that way. And I was like, kind of a rational thinking woman here, to
Mhm.
an in this kind of to an extent.
Yeah, she's fire. I said, she'd rather let the house go than do this, which I was like, okay, that's maybe why we got to be the man of the house here, and we got to handle some shit. We got to actually put our life on the line and fight to make the bread here because you would just let it go. You're just ready to just up and quit if that ain't the option. But listen, in the story, he's got to go. Too bad, so sad. Man's got to do what he does. listen, that's what it does. If you got to keep afloat for this reason, that's what you got to do. And I love this may actually come later, but I think it was in this scene, and I just didn't note it, or maybe it was later. She asked, like, what are we going to tell the girls? I was like, we'll just fucking lie to them. We'll just
Oh
lie
yeah, that
right.
comes a little bit later. Yeah,
Yeah.
but yes, yeah, yeah, right. That is a good point. I didn't think about it that way, but yeah, that is basically what he'll end up saying. But yeah, no, but in this one, he just says, "We're not giving up the house. We're not going backwards." That's why I kind of alluded to that earlier, and I was like, I get it. I mean, uh, this is it. She was like, "This is where we're not going back to," she says, and I was like, that was I liked the writing in that. I gave special note to that. I said the way that they framed that little exchange, I thought it was a very good human connection between the two characters. Like from the if you've got problems with the fight aspects of it, I don't think that there are many problems with like the actual filmmaking of it. You know what I mean?
No,
Like
yeah. I think this is more designated to set up the psychological and the community behind mixed martial arts, and potentially what some other people could be going through that are mixed martial artists, more or less than, hey, this is a movie where you can watch cool fights. Like, it's not about that at all.
definitely that. Yes, I would agree with that. I mean, now, what I would say is that we got to see a movie that actually like does the fighting the way that you think it should be done, so I can like see exactly how you would like to see it. And perhaps we need to see a film that actually has actual mixed martial arts being fought in it. That would be kind of
Mhm.
interesting, but I don't know if that actually exists. That's besides the point. Anyway, back to what we're talking about here.
Yes, so anything left on the scene there?
Just that they're only he tells her that like he did want to try to bounce, like he actually did go to
It
try to become a bouncer. They were
just
paying
didn't
nine
pay.
dollars an hour. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So so all of that is coming through that. She's saying she's not having it, and yeah, and then that we cut to the next scene here.
Okay, so the next scene we get into the cliche diner. We got Pops eating. He's sitting there eating. Probably he's got an egg, probably some bacon, hash browns. Classic. The all American meal. And so Tommy slinks in there, obviously, and he starts dropping the bars to Pops. I'm gonna start fighting. Like, I'm gonna do it, and we're gonna do it just like we used to. I'm gonna join that Grand Prix tournament, and I need a trainer, and it's all about fights. I don't need all that extra BS. Don't come in here with your feelings. Don't try to talk to me about mom. I'm gonna live in the basement or whatever, attic, whatever it ends up being, and you're gonna train me, and we're gonna get this shit done because we're gonna get this money. And decent enough. I kind of like, we'll talk about it later, but brotherhood is a big thing in this movie. A lot of different forms of it, with a lot of different, not just male characters. We have some other ones, but brotherhood is a big component in this, and I think this is one of the bonds that you see created in this. This is no longer a father son relationship. I mean, it is, but as of right now, like, these are two men who are going to be united with a common goal. Pops wants to be closer to him, and Tommy needs a trainer for fighting. This is a common. They can reach a common ground by doing this for each other. And if Pops seems a little reluctant at first, but he's just playing the part of. He deep down obviously really wants to be as close to Tommy as he can be at this point in his life. He regrets a lot, and I think this is just a really good scene because you see just how much and how quickly, like, Pops has been paying attention, that he cares, because he's like, all right, we're gonna do this, but put the pills down. Give me the pills right now. I know you got more. I heard them shake when you were walking in there. That's a really funny scene. They made the how many is that? That's three bottles right there. So that was really funny. I like that scene a lot.
Yeah, I also very much like this scene. Yeah, so when we start off when we cut to this scene, we cut to like to set up that this is a diner. It's someone flipping burgers on the griddle, and I just had in the notes that if this was also Brandon and this was another one of his jobs, that would have been really funny. It was not, but it would it definitely would have made me laugh. Anyway, that's besides the point. But yeah, so Tommy is meeting Pops at the diner here. Tells him he's going to start fighting, as you said. We find out that Pops used to be a trainer, so Tommy's like, that's one of the few things that you actually were good at, so he's coming to him for it. And he says, he wants him to train him, but this is no human connection here, and that's like you had said, it's about these bonds here because we already have established in this story that Pops wants to have a relationship now that he through religion, through all of these changes that he's made, sobriety, all of these things, he's changed his life. And now with Tommy back in it, he would like that. But Tommy is too far gone from that. He says, no, we're not having this. It's just going to be about the training. So to your point about, okay, well, if that's the case, then Nolte's character, I thought it was a really good way to portray how he was going to take control of that situation. Because you're right, he's like, look, you came to me, is what he says. So if we're going to do this, I don't want you quitting every 5 minutes. I want you, like you can't have it both ways with this, where you get to have the training, but also just be a prick all the time. So like, no, none of this quitting every 5 minute shit. And then the pills thing. Yeah, the line was pretty funny. He's like, you sounded like a goddamn maraca when you came through the door. I thought that was pretty
Yeah,
good.
yeah, I forgot that I wrote that part down too. Yeah, he says 3 bottles of pills, which 3 bottles of pills just walking around with on the daily. I mean,
Plus
you
alcohol, if from before, right?
how was he up in the morning to get the breakfast, attempt with pops? He
Yeah.
was anyway. So
And also
we
to
go
his
ahead.
credit too. Sorry, to his credit, to Tommy's credit, gives over the pills immediately. He wants to fight. He's
Mhm.
coming in with the mindset of a person who is going to embark on this journey. He says he'll stick to the old man's diet. He said, we're gonna have to bulk up. We're gonna have to get on a diet regimen. You don't eat this kind of shit that I'm eating. Whatever. I said that this is already a better dynamic trainer and trainee than Boss or Budokan had with their students. We were talking specifically in Bruised about how Halle Berry was smoking the cigarette and then came in and wasn't really like invested in becoming a fighter necessarily. This made more sense. It's like this guy is a complete, because if you look at it on that same level, we just talked about it. He's as fucked up as you get between the pills and the alcohol and the psychological stuff that we'll get to. There's a lot going on with him, but he is a fighter. So he says, I'm going to make this, this cutoff point. We're going to train.
I think this is one of the parts in the movie, and maybe there'll be more that I remember, but this is one of the ones where I feel like they introduced something really early, but it wasn't something that was going to be a remaining thing throughout the movie. Like later, you'd be like, oh, okay, the pills are going to come. He's going to withdraw or something. He's going to get back on him, something like that. But it never comes back. So
Well, and tipping the hand just slightly. If one of my major criticisms was the over the top suplexing, the other major criticism is the ending of this film, and that
true.
ties into that basically
It's
because
like it's like they had an amount of time and they just didn't. They were like, all right, we got to cut a bunch of stuff out, and
that's the thing. It's like this film is over 2 hours long. So
mhm.
it's like when we talk about pacing, we talked about the same thing with Bruised as well. I mean, Bruised is a comparison a lot of times for a lot of things because of the all of the elements and the things that we're talking about. Like Bruised is kind of the example of like what you shouldn't do in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
This falls into a similar trap where you have over 2 hours worth of material, and then for it to dead end the way that it does, little unsatisfying. We'll get to it, of course.
Yeah, so I think there was just some things that I feel were missing, especially with this part right here. How he was just one so easy to give up, not to give up, but to give up the pills. I think there should have been like a little rebellion to that. Like, listen, I'm not one that has ever been on them, but I can tell you from a lot of people who are addicted, medication is hard to get off of. It's not just a cold turkey type of thing. Like you will literally withdraw from shit. So I think there should have been maybe more of you could have had an opportunity to spread awareness about things like that. Like here's what happens when you do get hooked on something like this, and like here's something that he's trying to adjust to now that he doesn't have them. How does he overcome that portion of it? That would just one add another shitty aspect to this person's life, but that would have been the realer aspect to it. I know Tommy's going through it in this movie, but like uh alcohol withdrawal and medication issues, probably not the easiest time.
I mean, all very fair points. I was okay with this for the reasons that I kind of led into that portion with, where it's like if he has decided that he is going to fight and he knows about the Sparta tournament, he knows about the 5 million, so it's like maybe having already have fighting experience, like he knows that he needs to get off of this stuff. So okay, but you do make a good point about the withdrawals.
I get I like that point of it too. Like in the moment, I was like, yeah, it makes sense. Like he's dedicated. That's how dedicated he is. He'll give up all of his vices for this. But like I think they could have done it in a way where it's like you know, if he's
Maybe
a
his
if you
yeah.
know, if he's addicted to,
Right.
opiates or something, it's like, okay, guys, I
Sure.
mean,
Oh yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, very brief little aside. When Vitz King was going through some medical stuff a while back, like he specifically was enduring pain in order to not go on opiates, just out of an abundance of caution because of how addictive they can be. So
yeah.
you make a good point with that.
Yeah, so I think there it was just, the direction could have been a little better, especially with focusing later on with the story. Like, what could that imply later? Or what could that bring later to the story? They just drop it off pretty early in the story. Either way.
Sure.
So we get to another scene. We got the high schoolers. We're back to the high school, and they're in the classroom, and they're all, ooh, shit, like that was a fucking fire. Like they're all fucking going crazy over this clip on their phone right now. They're like, yo, did you see it? Like, did you guys catch it all last night? Like, I just sent it to you, blah, 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 blah. Students chatter asking if it's true, that, hey, Mr. Brendan, teacher man, is it true? My brother said you fought at the titty bar last night. Is it true?
That is a funny line. Yes, the titty bar did come out in the middle of this classroom without any questioning of that. But yeah, no, they're all chattering about it, but also it's kind of obvious to everyone because teacher is walking in with a big old bruise on his eye. So everybody's kind of like discussing this, and then we get that very little quick what is MMA little mention there, which you kind of have to have it in a movie like this, especially at the time. What is MMA? Oh, it's different styles of fighting, kind of thing. They very brief. I thought it was fine. A couple little lines of dialogue and then move on from it. You don't need to over explain it. You're going to see it in a couple minutes anyway. So, so yeah, so I thought that all of that was fine. And then yes, you get hit with the my brother was at the titty bar and he said you were choking fools out. Uh,
Oh my goodness.
I was like, yeah, that's pretty funny. And then you also in that same immediately after that, you see the principal of the school, or what we assume is the principal of the school, and he points to his watch and he's like, essentially, see me after class to the teacher. Which
Yeah.
like that's kind of funny.
Yeah, no, that was a good one. Love that the principal obviously is, he's in on it, and everybody. The principal character that you'll meet here in a second, he is a prevalent, reoccurring character in this
Yes.
movie, and it's he actually does a very good job with a very short amount of screen time to make you care about like what he's showcasing in this movie. What he's playing, what he's portraying is a very, is a human. This is somebody who actually, he's a principal, he has teachers, he wants a good staff, he wants to he wants to relate to people, whatever you want to say. Like, these are two dudes that obviously have known each other for a good amount of time. So he brings them into his office. It's like, dude, what are you doing? Like, I heard you were fighting at a strip club. Like, what are you doing? And he's like, yeah, I mean, I was. I
Yeah,
mean,
well, and I mean, and crazy to think that as recently as 2011, this might have legitimately been a problem for a teacher. I mean, it's violent, it's outside of the norm, especially in 2011. You got a big old black eye when you're trying to teach a classroom full of high school kids. I mean, this is legitimately a thing that could have been a big problem. I mean, I would assume nowadays it might not. Shout out to my guy Cody Gibson, who is a teacher. Not a problem for him, thankfully, but like.
Freddie Vidal, buddy, gym teacher.
Freddie Vidal as well, of course. So I mean, MMA fighters truly the only fans models of their era.
Yeah. So, the principal he's all upset. The superintendent's coming by. He's already on the way. There's not much I can do. I mean, I tried my best, but
There's a funny there too where he says the superintendent's coming and Brandon's like, I need the money, and the principal's like, this isn't moonlighting at Applebee's. I was like, that's pretty good.
that is pretty funny. So yes, yeah. So it gives the school a bad image. What were you thinking? You have no business being in there with those animals.
Yep.
And he's like, I used to be one. And then the teacher's like, they they won't allow cockfighting at strip clubs is what I have down in the. I don't remember him saying it like that, but okay.
Yeah, I
I
would
don't know.
say, yeah, he's like, we can't have this, no cockfighting in strip clubs. And he was like, it was in the parking lot of the strip
Yeah,
club.
yes, yes, there we go. Yeah, it was in the parking lot of a strip club. That's exactly hilarious.
Yeah, this
And
whole scene was pretty. I love this principal too. By the way, I've seen him in he's like kind of familiar looking. I couldn't tell you what I've seen him in, but like he's great. I love this guy.
we're going to talk about him later, don't you
Sure.
worry. So
Okay.
yes, you're giving the school bad image. They won't allow cockfighting at a strip club. It was in the parking lot of a strip club. Anyway, it's a serious problem. And then he's like walking away. He's thinking, and he's like, so, were you in the UFC?" And he's like, "Yep." And he's like, "Son of a bitch!"
That was
Like,
great.
yeah.
Yes.
It's like just like the awe. He's like, this is not an animal. This is somebody again that I know, and it's like, holy shit, you were like a professional fight. You were with the top ranked. The thing that I know about mixed martial arts, obviously the biggest grand scale. I wouldn't know some regional fucking promotion. I know the UFC because it's the top. You were in that, like, son of a bitch. Like,
Yeah,
all right.
absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And I was like, again, such a different era. Bro fought in the UFC, and his hometown doesn't know, care, or like it when they find out about it.
No, they know about him fighting at the titty bar.
They don't exactly. Titty bar is
I
where well, that's, they only have to find out about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like he couldn't have told them that. So yeah, it's just definitely an interesting dynamic there. And so that's also where we find out that Brendan had UFC experience. And there was one other funny line from this when the superintendent shows up. He's like, the principal sees him through the door, and he's like, "Oh, he's here." And he says, "This guy hasn't seen the inside of a school since 9/11." I was like, this whole scene was like, there were a couple of really funny lines in that scene. I enjoyed that very much.
Yeah, principal was good, and then this would have felt like where we go back to a Tommy scene, but we don't. We go back to Brendan. He's up late fixing the dollhouses. He can't sleep. He's up late. We're wondering what's going on because you don't really get a time frame of how long this has been. Wife. I actually do we even know the wife's name? I forget.
I think we find out at some point, but I
Okay,
don't know if I ever actually picked up on it.
so the wife is, she gets off the phone and, she lets him know, you've been suspended for the rest of, potential. Well, she says you've been suspended without pay, but if you kiss ass, basically, you can come back by next semester. And he's like, well, shit, now we're really fucked.
Yeah.
If we had 90 days and we had 3 jobs, now we have 90 days and 2 jobs, and one of them is me fighting. So
Right. Yeah. So I mean that is definitely the crux of what's going down here. We're seeing how dire these circumstances are getting. But yeah, when the daughters are sleeping in like their bedroom, and he's in this little like tiny door room. This has to be a northern thing, and I was hoping that maybe you would know what this is, because this is something that I've never I've seen it in movies, but I've never like actually like it's like the doorway is smaller, and like it's like a little like, you know what I'm talking?
It's
I don't know what
it's
this is.
got a specific name. I mean, I can't think of it what it is, but like, yeah, I mean, my house is, I don't think we it's like a crawl space, or not like a crawl
That's
space,
what I'm
but
saying.
like
Like
a
it's like a tiny little inlet or something like that. I don't know exactly what you call that, but
Harry Potter lived in one, I think.
there you go. I think his was under the staircase, but yeah. Either way, it's like it's like a smaller little portion of a room that's in a tinier doorway. Like there might be a name for it. I don't know what it is. It's definitely not a southern thing. I don't think we have them down here, but
Maybe it's just like a version of a panic room or something.
could be something alike. It's similar to that if not. But so yeah, Dad's rebuilding the dollhouse miniatures. I said Dad is good dadding to the nth degree. This, I mean, really the driving home that family man element of things.
Yeah, I think this is. I was gonna bring it up earlier, but I'll bring it up now because you're starting to get annoyed with how fucking perfect this. Like it, his life is so good in the aspect, like, for the comparison to Tommy. I feel like they didn't need, like, obviously the struggle of him going through the money stuff. It adds a layer to the character, but to be the opposite of Tommy, I feel like he should have just been, especially with how the movie ends. It's like, well, he could have just had it all the entire time. Like, I don't think him struggling for the money, it pushed him to want to go towards the stuff. But it's like, I don't know. I mean,
I mean, he needed an incentive to
yeah,
actually want to do the tournament, though.
but I think with if the ending would have been flipped, I think it would have made a little more sense. Like, because that
I
I don't.
I kind of well, let's talk about the ending when we get there, because I think that you're making a very good point with that too, and the ending has a we'll go through all of that to get to it, but so yeah, he's rebuilding those miniatures, as I said. They're like, I was like, they actually suspended this guy without pay. I was like, fucking police officers murder people and end up getting desk duty, so that seemed like a very extreme measure for this guy. He was in an MMA fight. Didn't have any bearing on how he would
Didn't
teach.
get arrested.
No, right? Yeah, nothing nefarious. He was in a fight. I mean, like a sanctioned fight. No, nevertheless. I mean, like
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
But oh yeah, that was. But yeah, that's the deal there. I mean,
So he says he's got fight dates, and they're
well,
and
he
go
says
ahead.
that there are like smoker fights all over the place, which goes back to your thing from in the cage, and I think also in Bruce too, where there's just fighting happening always, anywhere, anytime that you're in one of these movies, fights are just around every corner.
Mhm. Yeah, every day of the week, you can just go get a numbered amount of fights for $500 is what, Brendan says that he could get from these fights here.
Sometimes
Um,
more. She says she's like, oh, for 500 bucks. He's like, sometimes a lot more than that.
and then, he hits him with the, "So, sounds like we're on board here," and she's like, "So, what are we gonna do about the children?" And he's, "So, just fucking don't tell them. It doesn't matter, they're young, they'll get over it," it's kind of an interesting thing, but, I dig it, they're adults, and they need a way to make money. Hey, kids will get over stuff, whatever.
Yeah, so the whole thing with these like smoker fights is what he was saying. There's smokers everywhere, but I was like, there the titty bar fight was not actually a smoker though. Like I said, it was a sanctioned fight at a referee and everything. So I'm like, it just seemed a little bit strange that they were referring to it that way in that capacity. I don't know. Yeah, again, nitpicking as a fight person, perhaps, but the other part too that I picked up on was, he was saying because she's like she doesn't want him to do it, obviously, and he's saying these are not real fighters. These are guys who watch too much
Yes.
UFC on TV. And I was like, bro is gonna just go can crushing throughout the tri-state. I was like, okay, that kind of makes a little bit of sense. I'm like, all right, I'm all right with all of this.
I literally wouldn't even mind if that was the case. Like if his story was just like, yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna go 50-0 against all these bums. Like if I get $200 a week, like we're gonna get to pay the house. Like I genuinely wouldn't have a problem with it. If that was a real story of somebody, like if they just refused to never go pro because they could just make $200 a week outside of a titty bar. I mean, props, hats
Could have
off.
been the Kayla Harrison storyline if she never came to the UFC. Win PFL twice, $2 million in the bank, right off into the sunset.
True.
On a local level.
Yep. So, anything else about this scene before we go to the next?
No, no, that's about it. Yeah, we're she's begrudgingly going to be okay with this because there are really no other options.
Yes, 100%. So the next scene is we get back to Pops. He's waking up Tommy early in the morning. He's like, "Come on, we gotta get going." I got you coffee or whatever it is, and Tommy's not getting up. He tells him to go the fuck away. I'm a grown man. I can wake myself up. I don't need your help. Please leave me alone. And then I don't remember if there was too much that was said important here. All that I remember at the end is Pop said, "I'm throwing the coffee out in 5 minutes, so you better get up."
Well, so yeah, so what he the funny way that this starts is that Nolte is walking up the stairs and he's singing. He's got like a little like wake up song that he's singing. He sounds like kind of drunk, so it's like I almost for a second was like, oh, did he like relapse? Because that kind of would have been slightly interesting if that had been somewhat part of it. But no, he's just kind of singing a goofy little wake up song because he's trying to be like he's being a little bit more jovial, and it's setting up the idea that Tommy is sticking to the we are on a business relationship kind of setting here where we're not, no friendship. I can wake myself up, all that kind of stuff, whatever. Nolte also, this we didn't mention this earlier, and it's a very minor point, but they do have this little through line in this film of Nolte, or excuse me, of Tommy trying to trying to emulate Theagenes of Thassos, which is like a mythical Greek wrestler who won like something like 1,400 fights in a row or something. Like they set that up very, very briefly in the wrestling training footage. And Nolte has a poster that I guess Tommy had made when he was a kid. He got it from out of the basement, and he's like, "Oh, did you keep fighting or wrestling when you were in the Marines and this and that?" And Tommy's just like, "I can wake myself up. I'm shutting down all of this, whatever." And then that's where Nolte's just like, "All right, fine. Well, the coffee's gonna get thrown out in 5 minutes, so get your ass up."
Yeah, I remember him pulling out the poster or whatever, something that he made. I don't remember. I don't know what you're talking about. This Greek god thing. That
It
was
was it was very briefly mentioned during the wrestling footage. That's one of those things where it's like they're they're trying to set up things for payoffs, and maybe some things you need and you don't need kind of thing. Like maybe it wasn't necessary to have that, I guess, because it was very quick and you could miss it.
this next scene. The way that this next scene started was very confusing.
Yes, yes,
This was
definitely.
very jarring. This you would have thought this was a flashback, because you go to the desert and this is the military. You're with the military. You're watching people line up. They're doing their salutes. They're 10-2ing or whatever the fuck they do over there. And you're thinking like, oh, okay, we're gonna see Tommy, like Tommy in the military, because he just said, did you continue it? Earlier he said that he in the movie when he's talking about his mom, he said he was in the military. and then he came back, or he didn't come back, but at the time he was in the military, and at this point he had come back from the military. You know, he had asked him, "Did you continue wrestling in the military?" So now we get to see a flashback of what we thought was a flashback, and we're thinking Tommy's going to come up here and do something in the military, but no, it's military people who are just watching YouTube or something. I forget how this works. He like runs over and he's like, "Hey, we got the tape. We need the tape. Like you got to."
Yes.
It was kind of something weird was going on here. This was such a jarring scene.
Yeah,
Very
yeah, it definitely catches you off guard when you start when it starts up here, because like you're in the attic or whatever where Tommy's staying at, and then you hear choppers, and so you're like, what's happening here for a second?
mm.
And so it's like we cut to Iraq. I think there was a text on there. I think it's Iraq. War is
Oh,
still
but no
on.
Pittsburgh
Say
or
what?
Philly. But no
Yeah,
Pittsburgh or
no,
Philly.
no Pittsburgh. Philly gets one. Pittsburgh does not. Yeah, that's very. It's strange when they decide to give credit to the locations and when they don't. But yeah. So we're in Iraq. War is still on. Obviously, dudes in tents are watching Tommy beat that dude up in the gym on YouTube. Taylor viral gym footage arc is what I had in there. You know, this is very similar to the cage. Because we failed to mention that it was such a brief little shot of it, but back when he was starting the smoker fight in the gym, somebody was filming on the phone. So
Oh,
they did kind of set that up, but it was very, very quick. Again, some things like it's like some things could have been like maybe dwelled on a little bit more, and some and what they choose to include and whatnot might have maybe there was a little bit of tightening that could have happened in some places. But so yes, we very much like the cage. Somebody had filmed it. This footage is now out there, and this dude recognizes him and then goes bolting out of the tent. He goes to another tent and starts shouting about the tape. He goes through some camcorder DV tapes and pulls up some night vision combat footage. It's Tommy on YouTube and on this tape.
it's crazy because you don't know that he recognizes him, and like he's just like, "Holy shit! Wait, I gotta go. Hold on, guys, I gotta go." And he's like,
Yeah.
he runs like 4 blocks down, and he's like, where's the tape? Where's the tape?" Like everybody's supposed to know of this infamous tape. Like when you say the tape, it's like you mean the tape of the guy that did that, whatever. So they go through rummaging all these tapes because apparently they have so many different unidentified people that they need to figure out. So they pull out this tape. It's a cassette fucking tape. He puts it in, and it's again when I started watching this again. Thinker apparently didn't have the issue that I had where I was watching in 15p. So I couldn't have told you that they were watching a video that had Tommy on it because it just looked like dark night vision scramble to me. So when they're like, "Holy shit," and then they do like a side by side, it's like that's him. Like it didn't really feel like that to me because they didn't really portray. I don't know. I couldn't really
Well,
make
I
it
think
out.
they end up like stopping on his face at one point. It's unfortunate that you had these quality issues here,
Yeah.
but yeah, no. So that's the idea, though, is that they see this guy from the viral fight footage again, very much like the cage. This video is getting out there, everybody's seeing it, and then now this guy recognizes him, and he's like, "I need this tape." And I guess they just have a lot of like war footage, that they have film of, that they keep film of, and he finds him on the
Key
tape.
key to note about this also, we don't know exactly what's even happening in this footage until they tell you later in the
Right.
movie. So
Yes.
that's kind of annoying too. Like they maybe could have made because when you think of the scene, what the scene is there's a tank underwater or something, and Tommy pulls the door open and saves the people.
Well, yeah. I mean, we'll get to all of the
But,
details of it, but I
but
mean, that's
but the point that I'm making is they could have just made like an easier scene for us to be like, oh, that's
oh,
Tommy saving him. He could have just like shot a couple dudes and like, it's military. I don't
yeah,
know.
no, during the actual footage itself that they do
Yes,
show you. Yes, yeah, that is true. He's like opening a door off or whatever, something like that, and there is like a water element to it as well. It's kind of hard. I mean, again, they're trying to unfold information to you gradually, so it's like you don't really know exactly what you're seeing, but you do recognize that it's him.
I think it just could have been an easier thing. Like it's just a weird setup for that scene specifically of what we're supposed to be seeing. Like it could have just been like, oh, Tommy just rolled in and shot a couple dudes while these dudes didn't have any ammunition. Like that's a normal military cliche. It's like, what the hell is he able to pull a door off of underwater? Like I don't know. It's kind of interesting that they added some superhuman element to this. It seemed.
True. There'll be a reason for it, but you can kind of debate as to whether or not the reason is jives with you. I guess
Well, he's a Greek god now. I mean, so he can do whatever.
absolutely. He's emulating Theagenes.
Yes. So, yeah, so they say, "That's him. That's
Right.
him in the video." So,
Hmm.
and then next we go back to the other side of the spectrum where, we go to this nice, pristine gym ran
Yes.
by Frank Grillo, and
Correct.
this guy, if you guys didn't know, is a really big mixed martial arts fan. He loves the fight game. If you remember back when we started, on my channel, we watched the Lethwee episode of the Netflix show, whatever. Frank Grillo is the dude who hosts that. Like he's like the
Oh,
dude going around like experiencing and training with the people. Really good show. Shout out him.
yeah. Well, and also, to that same point, Grillo, he's been in a bunch of stuff, including the show Kingdom, which is MMA related. Which we, if we, get around to wanting to watch a series that's very, very long at some point, let us know if you really want us to do it. But yeah, the Kingdom is about MMA as well. So yeah, Frank Grillo he is entrenched in the fight world, and also his character is named Frank. That's the other character that is named the same.
Yes, and so Brendan is at I don't know what my line is right there. Brendan as walks in and they reunite after a long time. It seems they're like, hey, nice to see you again. Whatever you want to say. Frank Grillo and Brendan, that is Joel Edgerton's character. Go ahead.
Well, yeah. Before that, though, as Brendan's walking in, Frank Grillo is in a ring and he's training a guy hitting pads to Beethoven, which is going to be a reoccurring theme
Oh,
here. But
okay.
he's saying he's hitting pads to Beethoven to loosen him up, and I was questioning whether that actually is like a thing that any coaches have ever done, because like I guess in this film they make a very big point about it in this film, but I mean maybe that's something that maybe like a specific coach did that they like are emulating in this, because Brandon's character has parallels with Rich Franklin, who was a teacher and an MMA fighter. So I would suspect that there are some things that maybe they're pulling and adapting from real life to this. I was curious if that is like a training method that anyone has done in the past, or if it was specific to any one trainer, if it is still done in any capacity, because it's not something that you hear about regularly in this sport. I would say it's not like we know that off the bat. Oh yeah, they're always training to classical music. Yeah.
Yeah, as someone who didn't catch this right here, I only caught it later on when Brendan was walking out with like the music. This is just I thought was just a nerd thing for him. It's like, oh, physics teacher, of course, is gonna listen to fucking Beethoven,
Oh
like
no, that's the whole thing with this trainer is that I want you to feel the music to like basically loosen them up, kind of like it's like almost like ballet esque is what he's trying to get at with it. It's like you move with the music, you flow, you get into a flow state with it.
mhm. Yeah. So they reunite after a long time. Throwback era of an Under Armour tank top, though. This was definitely a throwback here. Frank Grillo rocking the compression shirt with nothing else. I remember those
Legit.
days. This was a good time. This was actually a really good time. So they give a quick chat about family. He says, I should have called, and I forget
Well,
this was.
also another
Yeah,
real
go ahead.
quick note is that the guy when they embrace and kind of reunite there at the very start of all of this, Grillo points to the guy that he was training, and he says that the guy's name is Santos. A for realism on that, but we also find out that he is training that person to go into the Sparta competition.
Mhm. Gotcha. So yeah, that part. I think you'll have more to say about what they talk about here because all I have is they talk about the family. He should have called. Then there was a little problem, and then they talk about the money. But go ahead if you have.
Yeah, no, Brandon, the family man, tells his friend that he wants to fight again. Obviously they had known each other from Brandon's time, in the UFC or somewhere thereabouts. His friend guy Frank says, that he knows he's too old for it, and then accurately calls the type of event that he won in the parking lot. He was like, because he had said, "Oh, I've been fighting again a little bit," and he was like, "What, fighting in some bums in parking lots?" I was like, he then recites exactly the same stuff the principal said, including the fighters being animals part. So I was like the gym owner and mystic clairvoyant over here as well. He's basically parroting a lot of the same things, but all kind of true facts as well.
Yeah, so he gets the double whammy, listening to everybody tell him that he's a fucking cage fighting animal, um, which is hilarious.
And
But
more that
anyway,
the other animals are going to eat you alive, basically.
yes, yeah, that you're too old. You already had your run.
Right.
You're not going to be able to do this. So he says, "Well, I got a little problem. The bank wants the house," and then he's like, you know, Uh, well, actually, he says before this, he goes, I'm here training for fights. We're gonna lose the house, and I'm here training for fights. So there's the two things that are true right here. So what can we do about it? And and I think this is a Chad move by his friend. He's like, I don't have much. All I have is this gym. But how much do you need? And
Right.
obviously, that was a good move. That was definitely a moment where it's like, you ask that question praying they don't give you an answer back.
For real, legit. That is definitely true. Yeah, how much you need kind of thing. And you're like, oh God.
Yeah, yeah.
But no, yeah, Brandon's just like, hey, what I want is for you to, to train me. And good guy Frankie, the gym owner, says he'll put him in the sparring rotation.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh, there's a really guy. Sorry. Yeah. So,
yeah,
he asked how much he needed. That was before, he said back in, I'm back in the cage. I won the other day. He's like, let me guess, in a parking lot. And he's
right.
like, you know, but then he says, you were a barely above 500 fighter in your prime. Like,
Damn.
Jesus fucking Christ, dude. Like,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
pretty bad.
yeah. He's like, these guys are animals. You're a teacher. And then he's like, "So is the wife in on it? Like, is she good? Because the last time we got into this, she really did not like me, and she got into it with me at the end. By the end, we just, there's a reason we had a falling out. I didn't call because
True, yeah, and that he did. He was very sympathetic, about, or not sympathetic, not the right word. He was remorseful that they had lost touch or whatever. He's like,
yes,
he also found out about the daughter with the heart condition. He's like, hey man, I'm sorry. I'm really legitimately sorry that I didn't call you. Again, nice little human moment. Brandon was cool with it too. I liked the scene as well. I thought that the relation they seemed very natural. The friendship that you were supposed to believe between these two people was very believable.
yeah, 100%. I do like Frank Grillo. He actually is a pretty decent actor.
Same.
He shows up in a lot of different random performances, um, and I honestly do enjoy what I get out of him.
And I thought that he was, as far as like realism goes, he was spitting facts to this teacher guy because exactly like you said, you were a 500 fighter, barely above 500. It's like, if that's legit facts, that's legit facts, man. I mean,
Yeah.
like, you got to know how wild of a thing you're getting into because exactly what the wife is saying is legit too.
Listen, if you go back to a couple years ago, if you were a big fan of the JRE podcast, you can watch Brendan Schaub get exactly what this guy got right here, and it's just the taste of reality. I mean, sometimes you have to just have your bubble broken. Like, are you really that good? I'm going to question it, because if you believe so, then you're going to want to strive past what I believe and prove me wrong. But from what I see, brother, a barely above 500 fighter in your prime, and now you're like 12 years out from that, and you're
Well,
teaching, like, phew.
the irony will become that unlike Schaub, Schaub hit him with the you'd be surprised, but this
Yeah.
guy is who should have said that. Um,
So so anyway, so he's like, it won't happen like last time. We're all in it. The wife is on board. I've she understands that this is the way out. And how can I say no, though? And he offers him a sparring spot. I'll give you a spot with people in the gym, but no extra coaching, no extra nothing, blah 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 blah. And then this was a funny scene at the end. Brendan says, "All right, cool. I'm gonna go get my stuff." And he's like, "You mean like right now?" Like, he's like, and he hits him with that.
Yep,
Yeah,
there you go. Yeah, exactly. It was playful. Great scene. I enjoyed
yeah.
all of this. I think it did exactly what it needed. It set up the relationship between these two. As you said, Grillo is a very personable, like you instantly know the type of person that he's portraying when he does that kind of stuff. I think he's a good actor for that reason as well. I really enjoyed it.
I think Joel plays a good, because there's a couple, I mean, different archetypes of fighters, but when you think of a fighter, it's like you have that really over masculine, aggressive Tom Hardy version, and then you have the more passive, artful form of the martial arts, which would be the Joel Edgerton character, which I think he portrays a really good, like, um, a very ethical fighter, like very professional when it comes to what he wants to do in the sport. It's not ruthless aggression like Tommy's character would be. So I think it was he portrays it really good. And in this scene, I think the end, he's just like, I'm gonna go get my stuff. He's like, right now? It's like, yeah, yeah, I'm ready to go, you know?
Yeah, we're back in business, baby, that
Yeah,
kind of thing. And
yeah.
I liked it too. So yeah, very very good with all of that. But then that is leading us into a total shift here.
Yes, so this one is actually a really, this is where you get to see Pops, like the layers coming through, and Brendan, you haven't got to see interaction. So Pops comes over to Brendan's late at night. He shows up, you know. Brendan's actually like getting his stuff out of his car. He's like going inside,
Very
and
very similar parallels to the opening scene of the film when Tommy shows up.
I didn't get that before. That's actually
There
very,
you go.
very fire. Yeah, so Pops shows up, and he's telling him, I'm 1,000 days sober, Brendan. Do you care? Do you want to hear me out? Nope, I don't give a shit. I got my own family, and they're not going to have anything to do with you because, it is what it is. The past is the past. And, I actually think this is a good parallel at the time because, when you have the two people, Tommy's actually the first one to forgive Pops. And I think that's very key because Brendan in this situation, he is being the one that is doing exactly what Tommy was doing at first, but he's pushing Pops away, and there's no chance, not even an opportunity. And
And
he's supposed to be the good side of the characters, and then Tommy is actually the one that comes along to it
well, and
first.
to that point also is that like again the level-headed son through line with Brandon is that Brandon says, "Are your hands working? Because if we have a phone or a phone call policy, write or phone, that's what you
Yeah.
can do with me." And so it's like you can tell that like Brandon already has like let him in a little bit to the point of like he will communicate with him in some capacity if it's like absolutely necessary. So you can tell that he's a little bit more of like pragmatic. He's it's like, look, we're not having a relationship, but like I'm gonna pick up the phone kind of thing. So it also speaks to what you're talking about there.
I have it wrote this way, and I feel like I'm maybe getting this one wrong, but he says, like, why haven't I have grandkids in there that I've never met. And then I think Brendan says, like, why haven't you met your grandkids? Like, I think he's like, why you haven't met them. There's a clear cut reason, and then he lets him know, he's like, Tommy's back, Brendan's walking away, and that's his last effort. It's like, Tommy's back, like, please, like, talk to me about something. And Brendan does look concerned, like he does, wear the emotion on his face. This was very good performances by everybody here.
Absolutely.
The expressions were all on point here. Tommy's using his mother's maiden name as of right now, which would be the Reardon.
Right.
um, and then we get a little argument here. Get a little argument. Let me see. And then Pops tells him that he wanted to, or no,
Well,
Brendan was mad at Pops because he always wanted to train Tommy and not him. So
that's yeah, basically, the dynamic. This is another like layer to the now the three of them. Now you're expanding the dynamic beyond just the father to the two sons. You're now expanding it to how the father treated each of them individually, which also adds a layer to everything. So it's Brandon apparently was the underdog. He was the maybe the less skilled out of the two of them back when they were younger, and Tommy was getting preferential treatment in Brandon's eyes. Now, if you recall from earlier in the film, Tommy would say that that Pops's priorities were out of whack, and he wasn't giving anybody the proper attention that they deserved. So again, layers on layers with this. You're seeing it from both sides of these two very different sons and how they both interpret the actions of the father.
yeah, 100%. And this one, this is where you see Pops again. The Nick Nolte's acting is really coming through because the wife opens the door and the kids open and they're like, "Daddy," and he's like, "Oh my God, those my grandkids! Look how big they are! They're getting," and like, shuts the door and goes in, and you can feel there. This is not the only moment that you feel like, man, Pops, he's an emotional wreck. I mean, this is somebody who needed to stay away from the alcohol bottle and did not for a really long time. And now that he doesn't have that outlet, he's an emotional wreck. That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, this was like I wouldn't class there being many like truly like emotional scenes necessarily. Like there's nothing that's like gonna like make you tear up in this film necessarily. This is about as close as you would get to that, I thought. And for what it was, I was like, yeah, that's it's biting. I would say it's a pretty biting little scene to you watching this older man. Now, like seeing an older man of, a person of that age, and knowing that there like is a desired connection, you obviously feel for that, but then it's that multi-layered element of it where you know why he doesn't have that connection. I thought that the presentation of that was all very well done, and even if it's very brief, because as he's walking in, he's trying, the Nolte's character is trying to wave to the kids, hey, this and that, and Brandon is just, who's that, Daddy? It's just a nice old man,
Yeah.
and it's like, damn, that's heavy shit.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
No, this one was definitely, there was some moments in this where, uh, relatability is key. A lot of people, it's all about perception and what you relate to, and some of these moments hit a little hard.
Well, and it again, going back to, I don't want to like continue just unnecessarily piling on Bruised, but like these are the ways that you unfold relatability. You don't just drop bombs like they did in the scene you referenced from Bruised.
Mhm.
The assault scene, as I had been calling it or whatever, like where she just blurts that out for everybody to know. Now it's like, if you set up these things in a way where you give the atmosphere of what you need to understand out of the characters, then when something like that hits, you feel it.
True. So this scene, okay, so this scene ends. Is there anything else you got there?
I mean, really, just to reiterate, I have in the notes, Joel Edgerton is a good actor. His performance is intentionally understated and subtextual, I said.
Yeah,
So.
100%. So this next scene, this is another one of the weird scenes that we get that I didn't understand at first. Am I stupid for not understanding what was going on next? Because we get Tommy running, and then Tommy gets a call from the manager or something. And he gets a fight from the manager, and then Tommy uses the phone to call a Latino woman.
Well, okay. So let me yes, that is all true. I'll set this up just a little bit more, because there's a little brief part here that goes back to something I had said earlier. The first thing that we see next after this is we're back at the gym, and Asian faux hawk guy is again watching John Anik, who is back on the TV telling us breaking news here. We have this new character being introduced. His name is Koba. And what we find out about him in this very brief little clip is Koba is the universally considered the greatest pound for pound fighter who ever lived. That's an exact quote from John Anik for this thing. So I said, and we find out that this Koba is going to be in the Sparta tournament. So this Russian fighter is fighting for the first time in the USA and has never fought in the UFC. I said that this is obviously a Fedor Emelianenko stand-in, and perhaps this is why Dana White hates this movie, because apparently Bloomis had told me that Dana White does not like this film very much.
Nice.
Yes, so that I thought had to be said, because yes, this Koba character will become relevant later on. But we do find out about Koba, and then this part is very strange here. The coach of the guy who Tommy had beat up badly, the one from the viral clip that the soldiers were watching in the gym, says that he talked that guy into sparring with Tommy, and Tommy is not interested. And then Tommy goes and makes this phone call, who we will find out is his buddy's wife from the army days. But that little scene in between was just a little bit weird. The gym guy is like, 10% and a thank you is customary. And I was just like, what are you referencing here? I didn't really get what they were trying to get at with that.
Well, and other that scene too, but the next one where he was talking to the woman on the phone, I was very confused until later that they tell us that this is his buddy from the military's wife or whatever. Again, back to the brotherhood thing, and this is like, I don't know. I was very confused. Because I was sitting here thinking, I was like, okay, so he's got a family. Like, this is his family. He's got somewhere off. He's got them, but it turns out not to be his family. So in this scene, I didn't really catch anything that was relevant. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, just that he's called, like, they without telling you, it's a show me don't tell me kind of thing, but like you have to be kind of like really paying attention for some of these things, because like basically she's saying, Tommy calls this, the Latino woman, we get the El Paso, Texas, so it's in a different place. And then she's saying like, oh, everybody's doing good, and she's looking at pictures of what we will eventually find out is her husband. But we do see a picture of the husband and Tommy together in fatigues. So again, you have to kind of read into it to know that that's actually what that is. So I could understand it being a little bit like not immediately understood if like you weren't like zeroing in on those things. But
Mhm.
yeah, so that's she's like, oh, everybody's good, and Tommy's like, I'm going to take care of you, and she's like, oh, you worry too much, she's holding back tears. It's emotional kind of scene with her, but I can, if you don't really understand that, then I guess it might fall a little flat.
And so anything else on that scene?
Nope, just that he's checking in with her after all of that weird stuff at the gym.
Good, because we're actually going to get into the worst way to watch a montage ever in film. Um,
Yeah, we got to get into the montage. The montage, not you can have that opinion of how it's presented, and that is certainly valid. But my biggest thing with the montage, there is at one point here, I said the montage won't stop. It's out of control. This montage is a long, long montage.
Yeah, so I think I just typed some stuff, but I didn't type too much. Let me
It's
think
because
here.
how could you? I mean, it's one thing and then it's another thing. It's like, and it's like you said, the presentation of it is interesting. It's like it's not like intercut. It's like different boxes. Like you see how we're on screen right now, the two of us together. Imagine like that, but like then things are moving and like
So I can tell you where they potentially got it from.
okay,
There's a movie that was made back in the early 2000s called Catwoman.
okay, yes,
That
Halle Berry, our good friend.
they do that in that movie.
Oh,
They just fucking place 5 different camera angles on the screen at the same time. I don't know. It's really stupid. But anyway, so yes, we have a 4 picture in picture, and they just keep.
yeah, at times, like that's the thing that's so crazy about it. It's like it's kind of cool if it was shorter because it would be okay. It would be kind of cool if it was a short montage with very specific information that was just put boom boom, and then now
Two
you're
at a
on to
time, not four. Like I can't
I
figure out.
yeah, it was like they were really hitting you with a whole lot of stuff in here, like different elements of things going on. So we're getting like training footage. We're
Yeah,
getting both of the sons training. Tommy's training, Brendan's training. Now we're
Anik is
getting
breaking it down for us.
exactly getting more John
Rashad
Anik.
Evans shows up.
And that is where, when you had said about Stefan Bonner, who is the gentleman who passed away, legend of the sport, that was the shot there with John Anik, Rashad Evans, and Stefan Bonner, who doesn't have any lines for some reason. He's just sitting at the desk, but I guess he was an analyst on MMA Live at some point.
And so, not my, I said right here, not my favorite way to watch a montage. Flashbacks to fights. We're jumping Gilly. We get Tommy versus Mad Dog in Atlantic City. I don't know if I'm skipping too far ahead here, but these are the last things that I
Well,
still
yeah,
go. Oh no, still going with the crazy montage.
yeah,
Yeah, within montage, you get a clip of Brandon doing an arm bar after flipping them over. Was very good. Actually, very good moment there. 10 fighters, 10 different countries. The inner voice is speaking. We get a heel hook from Brendan. Music is endearing. Brandon keeps winning by submission. This is like his bread and butter. I don't know if you've caught on by now. I know the first fight I mistakenly thought it was submission is because every other fight he wins by submission. It's
that's
every single one.
sure.
Every single one.
Yeah, they're
So
definitely setting up, again, the dichotomy between the two brothers. The Tommy is very much a brawly striker type of fighter, and Brandon is a wrestler.
yes. So Brendan keeps winning by sub. Brendan and Grillo are walking away to leave. He runs over to throw his hat. I think this is okay. So this is a new scene. This is a new scene. So
Well, yeah. So I mean, just to fill in a couple of there's so much in this montage. Just like
yeah.
they really are hitting you with a lot of information, which again goes to the pacing of this film, which is one of the things that I thought was a little. If I have criticisms of it, the pacing is one of them, because again, in a 2-hour film, you're getting like to have all of this sandwiched in here. You really have to like pick what you can out of what you're taking away from it. So, we get the gym owner, Frankie, really pushing the Beethoven aspect in this thing again, which is funny that like, if you didn't pick up on it till the end, this is probably why, is because it's sandwiched in amongst all this other stuff. But yeah, the montage keeps going. We get the Anik and Rashad Evans and Bonner. We get, Anik, can this Koba guy be beat? And Rashad Evans just like, nope. And so that was kind of funny. But then this also ends with the guy Santos that was being trained when Brandon goes to the gym to meet Grillo for the first time. He injures his knee, And that's when Grillo throws the phone because now the guy who was supposed to fight in the Sparta tournament is now injured, is what we're
Yes.
being implied there.
So this next scene is pretty funny because it starts there in a parking garage. It's Brendan and Frank Grillo, and they're talking. They're walking away from, they're walking away from the gym, and they're on their way out. And they separate. They're like, "All right, man, have a good one." And then they go to their cars. And then Brendan's like, "Oh shit, let me go tell him that I do want that fight," as if they didn't just walk like probably 5 minutes together down the, like he had to run back over and tell, like you couldn't just yell it like, "Hey, I want to take that fight, man." Like it was kind of a weird setup to the scene. It's like you already had them next to each other. You separated them just to have a wide shot of them, just to be like, "All right, we got to run back over there real quick."
Well, I guess maybe you could say that that was Brendan like internally like coming to the conclusion that, oh, I actually do want to do this kind of thing, maybe. But I can see that. Yeah, it is kind of funny that they separate and come back. And also, I was like, damn, Brandon really wasted no time to just jump into Santos's spot there, right?
Yeah, yeah. I said he runs over to throw his hat in the mix one last time. Grand Prix. He can make it happen. He's tight with them. Is what Grillo says. Or what Brandon says to him. He's like, you can make it happen. You're tight with them. Like you got this. And obviously, Coach doesn't have much faith in Brendan. He's not really. He's like, I'm not really feeling it, but if you say so, man, I mean, we'll go for it. So he'll make the call though. I'm not confident, but I'll
Right.
go ahead and do it.
Yeah, so yeah, because that's all, like we said, that's in the parking lot of the hospital after the injury of the Santos guy. After all of that, so I wanted to mention, like, my note was that I felt like the architect in the Matrix. If you remember the Matrix with like the architect with all the screens, that's what it felt like with all of that visual overload before that. But so yeah, we end up.
That was probably the rest of the movie that we were looking for earlier in the stream. So they cut some stuff out due to the runtime. And, the ending was probably in
I
that
mean,
little
then they must have
montage
had a
somewhere.
4.5 hour film if that was the case. Because good lord, that was yeah, there was a lot in there packed in for sure, and we've still got a lot more to go in this what we did get. So yeah, so I mean, you're right. He's in tight with them. He's saying I want to be in there. Frank Grillo is definitely skeptical of it, but he's like, all right, I'll make the call. And then we immediately cut to back at home, and Brandon gets the call, right?
Wait, he gets the call, but he gets the call in the most disrespectful way from his wife. That is so fucking funny. She hands him the phone. "Hey, your
Well, because
boyfriend's
she's on
calling."
the phone with him, and she's like, yeah, well, the amount of training there, the amount of time that he's spending with you now, it's like you're part of the family or something. You can tell that she still like has resentful feelings towards the coach. And then yes, she hits him with the boyfriend line as she hands the phone over.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. And then I do have, wife is visibly not okay with it, but he's got the opportunity. He's in the Grand Prix. Wife upset. She didn't have any say in it. That was the thing. Like, yeah, you're happy. You seem really happy that you're making a decision without me. You're gonna go fight when I don't get to say that you can or when it's gonna be. I know you don't have a job or anything, but you're just gonna go off and fight.
Well,
Like,
yet again,
okay.
I have to come back to my same point from earlier. Wife has very valid concerns about her past his prime husband going into a tournament where he might possibly fight the greatest pound per pound fighter of all time that was just set up in this Koba guy. She says it in a great, actually, she has a great line. She's like, you said you were going to be fighting dudes who watch too much UFC. That's the guy that they're watching.
Yeah, that is a pretty funny line. Yeah, she still has no faith in Brendan. She will not watch him fight again, is what she says here, which I is a callback later. Now that I remember writing this line, that is a
Correct.
callback that is
Yes.
answered later. But she will not watch him fight again. Tensions are high, and I think that's where it ends for me.
The
If there's
only note that
anything.
I had for this little scene was that if they were going to have Brandon's character, Joel Edgerton's character here, like um show any like more like a more heightened level of emotion, this would have been an appropriate time for it to come out because I could have seen them take this scene in a way where he kind of like has to snap at the wife just a little bit to be like, hey, listen, like this is what we like. We have to do. Like
You said we're good for it, so we gotta see
yeah,
it
and
through.
they could have taken it a little bit farther if they wanted to. I wasn't too upset with it, but the only thing that I'd say is that like because like it would have added a little, like just one little more kernel of humanity to it, because like you had said earlier, they make it so very clear that Brandon is the even keeled, level headed, pragmatic, more solid individual, and Tom Hardy is the more, erratic, and all of the other things that we had mentioned about him. So it's like this could have been a nice little thing to be like, well, he's still like a human, though. You know what I mean? He still has a range, but
Yeah.
like they never really take it that to that level. I thought that if there was ever a place that they could have, it might have been there, but it's not like a major note. It's just something I picked up on.
Yeah, 100%. So this scene ends, and the next one opens up, and we're at the
The
tournament
war
presser.
on the shore, they call it, this Sparta tournament.
Yes. And this is where I noticed the tap out endorsements. This is where I was like, oh, that's where I recognize tap out on the clothing and stuff like that, not tap out crew. Like, gosh, cringe. Anyway, so this is where we finally get to see the infamous Koba, and we find out that he is played by Kurt fucking
And
Angle, everybody. If you didn't know, Kurt Angle is playing the Koba. He is a Sambo and undefeated and MMA athlete as of right now. And, we don't really see too much of this right now. We see him wear a suit, he like tightens up his tie or whatever. You see he's got the 5 o'clock shadow and he's just walking around. But mainly you get to see Brendan walk around and he gets to, he lays eyes on Tommy. They see each other. Tommy sees him first actually, and then kind of plays it off like he'll find, he'll fix. And Brendan gets interrupted by Frank Grillo and then the media woman. So he kind of, he's not really, he's halfway kind of talking to him like, yeah, but I'm just worried about other, he's focused, he's fixated on Tommy. He wants to go talk to Tommy, but
yes.
he doesn't get to at that moment. So go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just, I mean, you're pretty well on for all of this. This event is, like it actually has a little bit of the feeling of what it looked like at the, like the pre-fights for the Grand Prix. In Pride, actually, if you go back to the Smashing Machine, you see a couple of like ballrooms that kind of were reminiscent of that. Especially the long table press conference is something that was echoes of Pride. So I was like, good representation there. That all checks out. Guys in the suits and all of that. Tommy looking exactly like he looked, at all times in this movie. I said I'd ask why Tommy couldn't get a haircut for this, but there's a guy from the Tap Out crew that looks like the dude from LMFAO with the big ass fro. So maybe Sparta just doesn't care about haircuts. We also see Rumble Johnson at this point as well, who's going to be a character coming up. So a little element there, and yeah, that's about it. Aside from what you mentioned with them, this now them finally seeing each other for the first time, the brothers not actually interacting, but being aware of each other.
Yeah, Tommy walks out and Brendan just watches him, and then Pop walks in and then he looks and sees that Brendan has left, or not Brendan. Well, he sees that Tommy has left, so he goes after him, walks after him, and then that scene ends. Next scene, we open up. Pops is watching the news, reading magazines. News comes up, and they're talking about Tommy. We got one of the military guys. We and he's talking, and Pops goes to get Tommy. He's like, you got to see this. They're talking about you. Like, there's something going on. The world has stopped because they're talking about you on the news, and there's a Marine testifying, and he's saying Tommy saved his life. Like, Tommy is 100% the guy that saved his life, and Tommy just doesn't want to hear it. He just goes for a walk. He just
Yeah.
leaves.
Yeah, not necessarily testifying, because that's kind of a distinction there. He's more like a testimonial, I guess you would say. It's
Okay.
like he's being interviewed. It's actually CNN, I believe. It's like Don Lemon. So like that's like it was kind of interesting that they got the actual
Got him
CNN
out to
guy
the
for it.
Middle East where they were on base.
Well, no, he was in the
I was
in the
just
studio. Yeah, it's kind of, I gotcha. But yeah, I was like, oh, they actually got the license for CNN and the actual anchor from CNN. So a
mhm.
little interesting that they were able to do that for this level of a
Fox
film.
Shepherd was too much.
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, so yeah, we find out that Dad turns up the local news after listening to the Moby Dick again. I was like, he is very committed to his audiobook. I was A+ for that. But yeah, we find out that Tommy was a war hero saving the lives of his fellow troops over there. Apparently, that was what the tape was about. And I'd say the local news from 2011 covering MMA in any form would be a stretch, but they do say that the video The video was from an active soldier thanking Tommy had gone viral as well. So that's yeah. I'm sorry, that's what it was. It was that they were showing video of that fighter, or excuse me, of that soldier thanking Tommy after his fight video went viral. So this is a secondary viral video in response to it.
Nice, gotcha. Yes.
We're gotta like piece all of this stuff together. It's a lot to take in.
Yeah, so this is where Tommy goes for a walk and then he ends up on a beach. And this is an interesting moment because I don't know how Brendan knows where he's at. It doesn't
Well,
explain, I don't think.
yeah, the phone rings, Nolte picks it up, and it's Brandon. And I was like, movie logic, everyone is always watching the news. It's just like we're all getting this information together.
Well, yeah, or you could read it as he was picking up the phone because he just saw him at the presser earlier, and he's like, "Hey, where's Tom? Like, where is he? I want to talk to him." Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you could read it like that, but in my mind, Tommy goes to the beach. Brendan meets up with him, and in my mind, because I watch a lot of stupid movies about brothers, I guess, I was like, this is their safe place. They went to the beach because they knew, like, if anything's wrong, they go meet each other there. But, like, I don't think that's right.
No, that actually was a note for me as well. I said Atlantic City is big, but I guess you can just assume people go to the beach because it's like where else? Why would anyone ever go anywhere else there? I guess I mean like it was very strange because yeah, and also crossover note from Bruised. Also, this is taking place. The big fight is taking place in Atlantic City again. But yes, it was a little strange. Like yeah, he could have gone anywhere in the city. He's going to end up later in a casino. He could have gone to the casino. He ends up on the beach, and Brendan just somehow finds him on the beach. You let it slide. It's a movie kind of thing, I guess, on that one.
Yeah. And then we get more of tense scenes. We get a standoff basically between Tommy and
They're
Brendan.
laying out the dirty laundry between each other now, and
Mhm.
this is like the brother showdown, so to speak.
I think I didn't really take too much away from it. There was a lot of dramatic scenes where they were, spilling the beans, but it's not necessarily what they're saying. I mean, it is, but it's more or less how they're making you feel with the performances. So they were doing a pretty good job of making you feel like these are two people that are butting heads, that they haven't been there for each other. There's, one is, he's showing him. I have the thing, Brendan shows him the family photos. And Tommy's like, I don't even know who those people are. Just don't like you're showing me pictures of people that don't matter to me. And it's like, reasonably so, these are two people that have just been disconnected in life. So it is what it is.
Yeah, because again, echoing the scene where Brandon and Pops had their their conflict outside of Brandon's house. This is the now additional yet another layer here where it's you have estrangement from the father and now estrangement from the two brothers also. So this is a very broken family. The mother has passed away. All three of these people are not interacting with each other. The remaining three, there's no bonds that tie anything together in any significant way anymore. And now they're all thrust back into each other's orbit. So this is what you get out of that. At least one brother who is trying to reach out, but he's not getting anything back. He's too far gone. He's not having it with the father or with his brother.
Yeah. Um, yeah. Is there anything else you got there? I know there was a lot that they talked about there, but I don't have much to say about it. I mean,
You kind of said it best that it's like it's inconsequential what the reasoning is. There's stuff with the girlfriend and he had to leave, and he felt bad for abandoning him, kind of stuff. It really doesn't matter. What you get out of it is that you're no brother to me. My brothers are the Marines, and we're just gonna have to leave it there because that's what it's gonna be for right now. So yeah.
correct. Yeah. And then they part ways. Tommy walks off. Scene ends. We're back to the school, which at this point we haven't seen the school in a little bit because Brendan hasn't been employed by them. But
Yeah.
this is where you go back and they want to watch Brendan's fight in the auditorium. They are saying We'll do a fundraiser, we'll get a petition signed, we will do whatever it takes to be able to watch Brendan fight in the auditorium." And the principal says, "Nope, not happening. Can't let it happen." And then the kids like walk away like this, like,
the one the big note for me, that is all very correct. There's really not much to add to that except the one student looks so dejected. There is the one kid. Now I only point this out because it's the only real way to identify him, but he is the black student amongst them. He has this look on his face like how could this possibly be? Like, he's just like, oh, like it
Yeah.
really was just like, and then, yeah, they're all just like, they all like, you have this, it was kind of an odd thing to include. Again, what you include and what you don't include, because you do get this shot of them all walking away and he kind of like puts his arm around the girl and it's just like, oh, we're all sad because we're not going to get to watch our teacher. But like, what did it really add? I don't know. It's just,
Adding scenes like this in movies are always so interesting because, you ask the question, it's like, were the only three students in the high school that ever cared about this dude these people? Like, I mean, there could have been other high school students. Like, you could have showed us like other random students, like, and we could have got the hint if they would have been like, we want to watch Brendan fight. But of course, it's the only black student we've seen, the girl, and then the other guy. It's like,
yeah,
whatever.
I mean, I guess you got to have like avatar characters that like are the ones that you zero in on so
Right.
that you kind of stay with them or whatever. But it was just very odd that it's like, yeah, can we watch it? No. Dejected, walk out, and then fade to black. I even had like a little, question mark to that. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess now we're just back in Atlantic City. So now you know that they can't watch it in the school.
Back in Atlantic City, we got a fireworks open because it's 4th of July, Christmas Eve for the fight fans.
That's right. This is the biggest mixed martial arts event of all time for fight fans. Fireworks in the sky and Trump building looming large in the foreground there. And then Trump's Taj Mahal in the background of the next shot. I said that, of course, Trump was instrumental in the UFC's early days, giving Dana the Taj Mahal as the venue for UFC 30 in 2001. So that's actually kind of ties in a small way there. So I was like, check the box on that one. That was pretty cool.
I dropped an Easter egg earlier when I talked about Brendan Shaw, but this is actually one of the more important things that came into this movie is that his fucking co-hosts is on this movie. He's in it. He's actually a very prevalent character towards the end of the movie, which is crazy. But yeah, he shows up and drops some of the craziest fucking lines for a commentator
Okay,
I've ever heard.
let's talk a little bit about these commentators here. Yes, Brian Callen is in this film. That is the co-host that you're referencing there. I said, okay, we got Brian Callen as commentator number one. Commentator number two is a man named Sam Sheridan. He is kind of an interesting guy, actually. He's a former boxer. Also was an MMA fighter for a while. A merchant marine. He is an author, a television producer. He's a Harvard graduate. This guy has lived quite a life, and he's also our commentator, as Brian Callen's counterpoint here. So yes, those are your two gentlemen, and we're going to be hearing a lot of them navigating us through this tournament because it's time for this thing to go down. We're in Boardwalk Hall, packed with extras. The cage is a hexagon, not an octagon. Very important copyright distinction there. Time to go for this thing, all steam ahead.
Yeah. So Tommy, they're talking about Tommy. They're like, Tommy has become a star overnight. He has become an overnight sensation. And then he's walking out. What you'll start to see when we get towards the end of the movie is they just get right into shit. There's no taking a moment to realize what's happening. It's like he's backstage warming up, and then the next scene he's literally walking out to the cage because then they're talking about how he has no walkout music and that he's breaking all the rules. This is not something that you do in this sport. You can't walk out with no music. This guy's a killer. So crazy.
Yeah, true. So yeah, right. They're backstage. Nolte is getting ready for the fight here too. Putting Vaseline on the little Vaseline applicator thingy. I think Tommy is laying with his back. Or he's laying on his back with his legs on the wall, like that one dude from the Contender Series in 2024. If you recall, that guy who was like laying down and his legs were on the cage. That was kind of an interesting little parallel. But yeah, then we are back in Pittsburgh, and Tommy's gym is packed to watch the fight. Asian faux hawk guy is there. This is where I said he literally just watches TV in this movie. That is all that he does. So yeah, the gym is all packed to get ready to watch Tommy. And there was a line here to your point about like, them getting to it. They're kind of like packing all of this dialogue in with the commentary. All of these movies use commentary to give you information. That is a recurring theme through all of the things that we have reviewed on this series. But they said that in this internet age, he's a mystery, talking about Tommy. He's a mystery. I can't find anything about him. And then he called him Google proof. And I was like, I'd never heard that term before. I actually had to turn the captions on to catch what he actually said there because I didn't really know what he was saying. But I was like, bro had he had to have fought somewhere because he had fight experience. So I mean, I don't like. Did he just fight in the Marines? I don't know. It was just it's
Well, he
odd.
fought
Like
under the other name.
fair, I guess, but like, yeah, I mean, okay, I guess maybe just wouldn't different time, right? Different time. You even if he had a different name and looked a lot like that guy, then you just wouldn't have known.
So, they're talking about what he did in his video, the viral video, and I don't know how I have this one before the other one, but he says, the thing is the tank don't hit back, so that was a stupid line dropped by the
Well,
commentary.
yes, that right. This is yeah, he's breaking every rule. Wouldn't have his picture taken for the program. He skipped the presser. I was like, this dude is a promoter's dream fighter. God, this
Yes.
guy must have been a nightmare. But yeah, he's they're saying, yeah, he ripped the door off of a tank. The tank
Sam,
don't hit back. That is
Sam, he ripped the door off of a tank.
that was a line. That was very, very funny. Yeah, the tank don't hit back. It
Yeah.
was definitely great.
So, and then we get back, and then we go backstage to Brendan. Brendan's warming up backstage, and then, it's just, a little tidbit of what he's doing during the time. And then we get back to the cage, and Tommy's fight is about to start. Touched gloves, Tommy's ready to go. Looks good, looks very good for a movie UFC fight vibe. And then, of course, instant KO. He just walks in and KOs him. I mean, this is part of the story where one guy submits the guys because he's a submission specialist, and then there's the one story where the guy's a striker, so he knocks everybody out in the first 15 seconds.
This is kind of what I was alluding to earlier, where I was saying that like there are some things, especially when you have a tournament style setup. I think that the tournament setup for a lot of these films is almost like a double-edged sword because on the one hand, you need it because it's an easy way to pack a set number of fights into a story so that you have the entire arc within a compact amount of time, right? It's you only need to win this many amounts of fights because, like, other than that, how would you do it? It could have to span an entire career, perhaps. You know what I mean? So it's like you get an encapsulation with the tournament style. However, with that, then you need to pack in all of those fights. So what you end up getting is what we have seen several times now with tournament style presentations here, the instant knockout so that you can get fight number one out of the way quickly. We saw that in the cage. We're seeing that here now.
Yeah, I think it is unfortunate that we do have a tournament, and so like they do have to not take damage enough till like the end of it or whatever. But
True. That too.
it,
That's a good point as well.
so he knocks him out first round, instant KO, and just walks out the cage.
Marches out of the cage. I said fan friendly fight style, not very fan friendly otherwise.
Yep, just walks out the cage. But Sam, he's breaking all the rules. He's doing everything that you're not supposed to do as a fighter. And so yeah, this one was awesome. So it's Brandon's turn to fight after this.
Yes.
Brandon and Frank are having a moment before he goes out. And then here's why I have the note. Brendan walks out to classical music, and that was where I just thought it was a normal nerd thing. Like,
Brandon is having a little moment of unsureness with himself. He's kind of fidgeting with his fingers a little bit. Making sure that he actually can be that. Frank is like, can you do it? You can do this kind of thing. And then the power of Beethoven will see him through, is what I said.
all right. So please tell me you took notes on what happens immediately after this.
We get the Beethoven walkout
Nope.
music explainer from commentary. MMA movies have built-in exposition boosters and commentary teams, is what I had there. Oh, and then yes, yes, this is perhaps the most what the fuck moment in the entire film that you're talking about here. Yes, Brian Callen explaining that Beethoven has as much place as walkout music as Brandon has in this tournament, then holds up a goldfish in a bag at the commentary desk. So many questions right now, I said.
Yeah, so who was this bit for? Because you're a commentator. You're not like on like television, like you are literally just there for your voice. Did he go to the fair outside and win a game? Like I remember I won at a fair or something, like a little festival. I won a goldfish one time and I like took it to my parents. I'm like, look what I just won. And they're like, you don't have a like, we don't have anything to put that in. Like, what are you doing? It's like he just carried that in his pocket the entire time because he didn't have a tank at home. He was like, well, I guess he just lives in the bag now.
Yes, it comes out of nowhere, and you make a very good point. Like when we see this, it's not as if we're seeing it through the broadcast. Like that would be different if it was like, yeah, it's obvious it's for the broadcast. No, we're seeing this as if it's just part of the film, and these two commentators are just at the desk together. So he literally does like the off screen, like pull it in from out of frame, and like I have a goldfish now, and he's making the point. Yeah, he belongs in here as much as this goldfish belongs here at the desk with me. But it's like, why and where? And just, again, the questions abound.
Hear me out. So, if you remember a little while ago, there was a post-fight speech from Hanato Moicano. If he had pulled out a live turtle and said, "It is like a turtle in a tree," you would all be like, "What in the where do you get the fucking turtle from?" It's like, why does he have a goldfish with him?
Yeah, this was the strangest moment of this film. I mean, obviously, I guess you could say that it's supposed to be like comedic relief, and it certainly accomplished that in a very puzzling way because it's like so out of left field. But he makes the point about Brandon being a feeder fish to sharks. But bro, why do you have a goldfish though? Is what I said.
Yeah, this one was definitely weird. So anyway, moving past that, this is where
Yes,
I first noticed Rumble Johnson. This is where he's in
correct.
the cage, I believe,
Yes.
and this is where you get to see Pops and the principal are both at home watching this fight, not together, of course. These are
Well,
two separate scenes. But go ahead.
Pops is backstage, but yes,
Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah, but yes, yeah, we do see that the principal is watching the fight. That principal underneath all of the hard exterior that he has to put on for his job, he is supportive of Brendan. And they do have that moment earlier on when he's first like kind of reading him the riot act, not reading the riot act, but saying, hey, we can't have this as you being a teacher. They do have that moment where they call each other by their first names, so you're like you kind of get a little impression that it's like beyond that formal relationship. That they work together. That there's a little bit of a deeper camaraderie underneath what he has to do in his principal capacity. So you should get that. And also we get this is mid-sized Rumble era. I wanted to point out. This is not when Rumble was at his tiniest when he cut all of that weight. This is not heavyweight Rumble. This is middleweight Rumble, and accurate because these guys are fighting at middleweight. We actually found that out way earlier in the film when the other coach came to the door looking for Tommy at Pops's house. We found out
No,
that
well, he's the number one middleweight in the world.
bingo, exactly. So yes, so the mid-sized Rumble era, surprisingly few recognizable fighters in this film outside of the MMA on ESPN team, to be honest. But then you also have Kurt Angle, as you mentioned, so not an MMA fighter, but they're doing a fine enough job. I'm not mad at it.
Yeah, I think the Rumble and Kurt Angle is fine. It's fine, and the
Yeah.
fact that Brendan looks like Chael Sonnen, like I think that's like good enough.
And also because I mean, like a lot of these guys are going to have to get beat. Like so, let's say that you had an MMA fighter like as one of those, as like the guy in the last fight that just got instantly knocked out. Like maybe an actual MMA fighter doesn't want that association, even if it is like, you know what I'm saying? Like I think that maybe there's something to that where it's like, yeah, I'm not going to go into a movie. I'm not a guy who gets knocked
True.
out in the first 10 seconds of a fight kind of thing. Whatever. Anyway, the point is that yes, but we get Rumble Johnson. His character's name is actually awesome. His character's name is Midnight Lee. I was
Mhm.
like, that goes really, really hard.
Somewhat feels racy, but I could be wrong.
I did kind of think that. I said, yeah, kind of a 50-50 split between cringe and hardness, and the racial component is not lost on me.
Yeah, true. So we get this fight to start with Brendan, and there's some decent MMA work for
Oh,
the
can,
camera.
can I say
Go
one
ahead.
more thing before you get into that part? I said that there's a moment, you see this very briefly, but I said, I thought that the KSW round number flags were unique because I don't know if you saw my KSW watch along, but in KSW, they actually have ring girls that wave flags to denote the rounds. I was like, that's somewhat unique. This takes it up a notch. This has golden round numbers on like oversized beach balls that the ring girls knock into the crowd every round. And I said, this is certainly one of a kind, but also a very horrible idea because there are 8 fights in this tournament. 24. This is the night 1 of the tournament. So 8 fights going on here. 24 giant golden beach balls surfing around the crowd in this small ass space seems like a very bad idea. But I did want to point that out because I thought it was interesting.
Does not sound like the worst idea, but I didn't catch it in the movie. I must have not have been looking too close.
If it was, again, very brief, these are just me being hyper fixated on things, but to think about that in actual reality, just imagine how many of those beach balls would just be flying into the cage at other people, at the commentary, at crew members. Logistically, it would be a nightmare.
True, you're actually cooking. So we get into this fight.
Yes, go ahead.
Decent MMA work for the camera. You know, we're getting some good shots here. We get a good slam. Probably was another one of your WWE slams.
Yep.
Unfortunately, we get knees to the downed opponent, which who gives a shit at this point? We get back of the head strikes also, which is very funny.
Oh, I had a note about that one too. Yeah, where the ref tells Rumble to watch the back of the head, and Rumble proceeds to land 3 shots directly to the back of the head. I was like,
Yeah,
Hamdi
love it.
Abdel Wahab was, obviously a big fan of this film.
Yeah, love it. And so we get the hooks in with the choke, and there's already 20 seconds left, 10 seconds left. No tab, but he's out of it. Brendan smiles at Rumble in the corner. This fight was pretty easy for the fight fans. I mean, it was just Brendan losing because that's what he does in every one of the fights is lose immediately for the entirety of the round and then throw a submission up that is like life or death for the opponent. So get used to it.
Taylor Ark, brother. Taylor from The Cage. These guys from The Cage were fans of this film. You always have to have the adversity. This is the first like real like fight of the film.
Hmm.
And to that end, I actually like. I mean, if you had problems with some of the other portrayals of the fighting, I thought the fighting was actually pretty decently portrayed in most of these parts, especially when it came to Brandon, because Brandon was doing a lot of wrestling. So you have to have a decent balance of there still being striking when striking is appropriate, and then the
And
transitions.
WWE moves.
That's obviously the only one that takes me out of it every single time. I really, really wish they hadn't done that. It was the only thing that was like that's you have different opinions about the portrayal of the fighting with the way that they shoot it or whatever. Fair enough. I was actually really okay with all of that except for that one thing. I was like, if you hadn't have done that, I really would have given this very high marks on the realism of the fighting.
I can see that. I can definitely agree with it. But so anyway, we get no tap with 10 seconds left. You know, he gets up, but he's clearly a little loopy. So we go to the corner. Brendan is smiling at Rumble in the corner. Okay, round two is about to start.
Well,
Anything
but
anything
no, yeah.
before?
Before that, Rumble's corner again. The cage bit it bar for bar in some places, man, because Rumble's corner is reading him the riot act. What are you doing? What are you doing? You should have finished him in the first round. Blah blah blah. Like we do not hear corners doing this often.
Hmm.
The only time you really hear that level of intensity out of a corner is if they're trying to motivate a fighter who's way down to be like, you got to win this round kind of thing. But even then, it's not like berating them necessarily. We've seen a couple, but those raise eyebrows when they happen.
True. Yeah. So round two is gonna start. I actually feel like now that you bring up the coach's corner moment, I feel like we got like seven from Frank Grillo that were all the same, but I could be wrong.
That I have a funny piece of trivia that's going to tie right into that. So
Oh,
keep that in mind. But yes, we do get a good amount of Grillo, and he does tend to repeat himself a lot. Now, granted, I mean, you could say what he's telling Brandon to do at that time is like bears repeating, I guess, to an extent, but it was noticeable, I would say.
yeah, 100%. So round two starting. Wife is still hesitant. She's not turning on the fight. She's still at the house. You know, she's looking at the remote. She's thinking about it. She doesn't know what we got going here. But Rumble's in the cage and he's killing Brendan in the clinch right now. He's just destroying him. And then Brendan gets a takedown. And then Rumble gets up and then Brendan trips him on the way up, rolls into top mount, goes for a Kimura. Everyone is cheering for this sub attempt. Rumble taps.
Yeah, eventually. I mean, this is yet another one, though. I mean, like 2 times in one fight. Like there's a cartoonish airborne double leg. The WWE is on display with these aerial acrobatics going on here. There was also a scissor takedown. I was like, okay, like that just seemed like again just over the top theatrical stuff that you would never see in an actual fight. When was the last time you saw a dude hit the scissors and actually take someone down with that? And
Mauricio Hoofy against Jamie Malarkey.
All right. Well, you had a good one there, so I'll give you that. But how many other times besides that? You know what I'm saying? It's like that is not
To
a
be to be fair, I did see it on NXT earlier this week on
that
Pro Wrestling. So
And that's what I'm saying. Exactly. That's where you should see it, is what
yeah,
my point is. Yeah. Mauricio Hoofy being a unique case kind of proves the rule, I would say. But yeah, so, there's that stuff. And yeah, ends up with the Kimura, and Frank is he is so adamantly yelling about to turn in the hips and up, turn in the hips and up, turn in and up. It was like, yeah, okay, yes, we get all of that. You might have been able to take that down maybe to 7 of those instead of 8. But yes, he does end up finally getting the tap, and the principal is so happy.
that's the point that I wanted to make. The principal is hella happy, low key bringing a tear to my eye. Like he was so he had to like he was getting real hyped for it. It was awesome.
Yeah,
And then you get a bar from Brendan Schaub's best mate. You get a
yeah,
fucking
Callan.
bar from this guy because he clearly is an idiot. He says technically a finish, but that is a fluke if I've ever seen one.
Yep,
What
and well, I mean,
technically a finish, huh? Technically, I mean he tapped. I mean, and then by a fluke, huh? Huh?
yeah. To think that a solid Kimura like was actually locked in there, which is exactly what it was a fluke, is a little bit ridiculous. But then I like that Sam Sheridan hit him back with, "I hope you have a receipt for your goldfish."
Nice.
I
Yes, I
was
do
like, all
remember
right,
that one.
at least you get a little bit of a comeuppance on that very, very strange moment. But yeah, that was a little bit ridiculous. Absolutely. The commentary in this film did not bother me all that much, but things like that were noticeable, and there were like odd little elements here and there.
Yeah. So that's I do have the line about getting the receipt for the goldfish. I hope you have the receipt for your goldfish. Have that one in there. So anyway, scene ends. Brandon's wife is waiting by the phone. It rings. She rushes over, knocks on wood before she reads it, and the text just says "won" or
I
"win"
won.
or yeah, "I won." Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
something like that. Something easy, and she's all excited. Go back to Brendan. He's icing his hand while he's watching Koba compete. Koba blasts a right hand and power bombs his opponent, and then just beats him to death. Didn't even break a sweat.
Yeah, well, so I did want to at least mention though, with the wife, that it was kind of funny because she's like stress eating Doritos on the couch, just waiting for the phone. Which I'm like, lady, just watch the damn fight. Like, if you like, I don't, if you're just gonna sit there like, not being able to do anything else, it's like you just watch the thing. But okay, she's being, she's sticking to her guns. The text comes in on the old school 2011 Nokia. Chase, this is vintage cell phone technology here with the typeface that could only be from that era. I mean, this was typeface that you could see from a mile away, which is how you only A, had 2 little words on there, and B, could see it from the distance that it was being held. So this was accurate to the era, and I appreciated that.
Yeah, no, this one was definitely a pretty fun one. Go ahead.
But yeah, so then you're exactly right. They do a good logical time jump here. Commentary exposition tells us that we're in round 2 now. We're down to 8 fighters, and we see Koba the Goat fight his second fight of the tournament. Nice way to move things forward. Fight starts. Big right hand, literally into a jackknife powerbomb. This movie wants MMA to be pro wrestling so bad. Why?
Yeah, this one was pretty funny. Once you see it, I mean, you should have known after the first power bomb. It's like, yeah, they're going to do that a lot. Like that's going to be their bread and butter. And I'm telling you, it's just because they're easy to portray. I mean, it's you don't have to hurt people to do it. You can just easily showcase it. And you have one of the greatest pro wrestlers on deck. You might as well have him do a suplex or something. He's literally the guy who does the suplex. So
Well, in light of current things that are going on in this sport, I don't like anything that brings more attention to the blurring of the lines of things being scripted in this thing. So I didn't like it back then, and I don't like it now either.
So after the fight, we go backstage. Tommy's getting his hands wrapped again, and this is where Brendan walks out again. Maybe I'm mistyped and wrote Brendan
Uh,
instead of Tommy. Hmm.
No, yeah, well, so hold on, let me catch up to you here. So, well, I did say that Koba he just wrecked him, 30-second demolition. Doctors are attending to him way quicker than the dude in the beginning of KO with the paramedics, but
Nice.
also there probably should have been paramedics for this guy because this guy was dead, the Koba's opponent.
Yes.
And then yes, it's the guy that Tommy beat up in the gym who is also in the tournament. wins. He wins his fight, and now it's time for. So we see that for a second. He does the next slice motion because he wants to fight Tommy. He's going to try to get his retribution on Tommy, and then we cut to Brandon's next fight. Now it's his time to fight again, and Pops is turning up at the same spot before his walkout to encourage him. He's like, he had been at the sidelines, just kind of like giving him a thumbs up from the side.
So after the line where I says Pops is cheering him on, the next line that I said is it is already midway through the fight. So crazy. Midway through the fight, Brendan's already losing.
Yeah, he's getting So the wife finally turns the fights on. She goes into like actually like turn the fights on the TV just in time to watch Brendan getting brutally beaten.
Yes.
He is getting thrashed. It's round 3 of this fight actually, and it's not going great. Noticeably, zero blood in this movie. That's actually a point for all of this. Very little blood in this film, where there might have been. I mean, the amount of damage being inflicted, you would think that maybe there would be blood somewhere, but we don't see any blood. But we do see a thrashing going on. And that is Brandon getting his ass kicked.
Yeah, so I said Brendan seems to be losing. Wife now starts watching. That's when she wants to start watching. And then
Perfect timing.
Then the principal's cheering, he's like, "Come on, Brendan. Like, let's go, Brendan. You can do," doing some shit like that. Once again, Brendan gets the sub armbar this time. Wife cheers, and now Schaub's friend is a believer. Pops and Brendan have a quick moment, and I put it in all caps. It is like one of the quickest moments ever. I'm pretty
Sure.
sure.
Yeah, because that was something that I didn't even put down a note, so it must have been very, very quick. But yes, I said Brandon somehow finds the submission again on this guy after apparently being beaten to death for 3 rounds. Bro is Anderson Silva-ing his way through this tournament, which is a tournament apparently full of Uncle Chaels. It's like,
Yes.
I mean, Jesus Christ, this dude has how many times can you come back from the brink of death? Well, Brandon apparently can do it throughout the entirety of this thing.
Yes. And so Pops and Brendan have a quick moment. This is fast as fuck because Tommy's already in the cage. Like, no music, no bullshit. Gets in the cage. And then immediately winning slams and beats his opponent to death. Feel like there are cameos, but not sure. Clear shots to know for sure. Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
think. Doesn't even matter.
just another Tommy has his next fight and another quick barnstormer finish and exit from the cage. It's basically a repeat of what we got from the first one. I said that I will say that if this film is going to have a tournament style in it, it's moving it along at a good clip necessarily. So it goes back to my original point, is that like, yes, these are all kind of ridiculous things to think that he would just be going through annihilating everyone in the tournament this way. But like, what are you going to do?
Right. Yeah. No, this one, it's unfortunate that for the striker style in this movie, all they're portraying is just walk in Ilya Taporia and just walk out. Like,
Right, and that's the whole thing about it. It's like it's the double-edged sword of a tournament style setup, is that you get all of what you need in a compact amount of time, but you have to get through it to get to the end.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, it just, it could have been a little different, but with the way the movie was set up and a lot of constraints that you have with the tournament setup, I mean, they did the best that they could.
Sure, so this, I mean, that actually ends us of round, or excuse me, night 1 of this tournament. So this is a 2-night tournament, very similar to the Pride Grand Prix, except in Pride it took place months apart. This is taking place back to back. So fight night number 1 is complete, and now we are with Tommy down at a slot machine because we are in Atlantic City.
Yes, so Tommy is we get shot to the pier first. We get
Sure.
shot to the pier and then we get casino slots. And then we get Pops headed down on an elevator. This is actually a point where I didn't note it, but I remember I watched this scene like 6 different times because it kept pausing right when he got to the bottom of the elevator. And I would keep hitting refresh and then he'd go to the top and come all the way down and it'd freeze. And then I'd refresh, he'd come out. It was really annoying. So
Did
that
you
was
just
really
not
fun.
have the file that was sent? Like, what happened to
Oh,
the
I
file?
did. I did. That's what I was watching at
Oh.
first, and then at a certain point it wouldn't refresh. Like it was just like it got to the loading bar and it just like wouldn't. I've tried it like 7 times, so I had to switch over to Pluto at this point.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, yeah, and then Pops is asking for directions, I believe, and he finds Tommy gambling on the slots.
Yep.
Pops is trying to make some small talk. He's proud of him for what he did. For the Army pals, and Tommy starts questioning him back. Like, are you really like who? I don't know. I don't even know what he says at this point. It's basically him just being an asshole to Pops.
Well,
So
no, actually, it's so okay. This is what this actually is, though, is more important than that because Nolte finds him. You know, Pops finds him at the slot machine, and he after now seeing the thing that was on the news. You know, he's saying, "Wow, you know that was an amazing thing that you did." And what we end up finding out after that is
yes,
that it was it was a mixed bag, you could say, because on the one hand, yes, Tommy did save a number of his fellow soldiers in the pulling the tank door off open, but he was also in the process of deserting his unit at the time. So that is why Tommy goes by his mother's name as opposed to, you know, the Reardon as opposed to Conlon, and that's why they can't find his service records. Why, as you said, that why they couldn't they didn't know anything about him on the broadcast. It's because Tommy is essentially was a deserter, and
yeah.
so he did a great thing, but he also did a very a dishonorable thing as well. So he's conflicted about that on top of everything else.
Yeah, and you're right. No, so that definitely happens, and then this is when he starts being an asshole to Pops. You know, because Pops and Tommy still aren't getting along. Tommy never seems to forget. He decides to start hurting Pops' feelings, sends Pops away, and throws a cup of money out of him. You know, and then
Yes.
you can see in Pops' face. You know, he doesn't have to say anything, but it goes back to the beginning where he's a person where he's understanding that he probably deserves to be treated like shit, by this person, but he's accepting that, and he's gonna go do what he will with that information after he just got a couple coins thrown out of him. Tommy isn't happy with himself, but you can tell that he's just one of these people that pushes everybody away. So
Well, yeah, it's like at this point, I was saying that, like, you know, yes, we're continuing to beat home the point of exactly what you said. You know, Tommy is just he's not having it. He's pushing. He's self isolating. He's self segregating. But it's like, you know, maybe at this point you probably could have given an inch, perhaps. But like, it's like, no, you know, okay, fine, we're gonna just be okay with that. I get what you choose to include and what you choose not to include, I suppose. But this does set something up, so I guess it's like fine that it's there. But again, the amount of information that they had to throw into the montage and what we're going to be getting to at the end, it's like pacing. There's just a couple of little points about pacing that were a little off to me, and this might have been something that maybe could have gotten evolved a little bit. Like there might have been a better way to introduce what we're eventually going to get to there, with the Pops character coming up. But yes, he gives him the throws the money at him or whatever. He says, go back to the room and listen to your fish stories that no one cares about. And I said, hey, watch your fucking mouth when you talk about Moby Dick. But then, I was like, good job, Tommy, repeatedly telling Dad you liked him better as a drunk. That was another thing he said that again too. That was the callback from earlier. I liked you better when you were a drunk. You have no balls now. This kind of thing. And I was like, good job. You drove him back to to drinking, which is eventually what we're going to be leading to here.
yeah, so this next scene, of course, it starts. Pops has definitely been drinking. He's off the fucking wagon. He's going crazy about his audiobook. Tommy opens the door. You can see that he's concerned. When Tommy goes up and takes the bottle from him, gives him a hug. I mean, very it wasn't it was anything but standard for the characters that we have as of right now. Like Tommy definitely is out of character to be like the nurturing kind of figure here, which I thought was fine. He clearly you could see that it's like who he is deep down isn't the person that he was portraying last night. Like he does care, and whether he was mad or upset saying, I missed you when you were a drunk, like this is obviously not what he was wanting to happen. And so Pops, being a drunk person at this point, listening to his Moby Dicks, ends up in Tommy's lap getting held till he goes to sleep. Um, this is a very over dramatic drunk performance, I would say. Like I don't know. I didn't think this was the best.
Um, half and half. So okay, as kind of what I was alluding to, it's like this would have been the appropriate moment for, like, in the casino probably would have been the appropriate moment if they were going to turn this character. He could have done it there to avoid what this scene is, but they didn't. They chose not to do that so they could have this scene, right? That's what I was getting at there. It's like this scene has to happen in order for the scene in the hotel room to happen with Pops being drunk. I didn't mind the way I didn't mind the way that they portrayed it because it was so what I would say is that like when you have a character like this who is now fallen off the wagon for a very specific reason, there's like a couple of different ways that you could do it. I thought that it was an okay portrayal for the fact that it did seem to me that if this person was as reformed, this Pops character, if he was as reformed as he had claimed to be, then him just being like kind of overwhelmed by being drunk again and overwhelmed with emotion because of what had happened, that maybe that's how it would have manifested itself. So like I was not like terribly like upset by it, but basically it was just like a way to lead to what you had described about, you know, Tommy essentially holding him to so that he could get him to sleep this drunkenness off. I didn't mind. I thought it was okay. I mean, you know, I had the Moby Dick element of it playing again. Like I didn't, I think that made sense based on what we know about the character at this point. I was kind of okay with it because like the other side of it is what would you have done? You know what I mean? Like, what is he going to go start like rampaging through the streets? Then you don't get the emotional connection with Tommy. Like, there's only a couple of different ways I think you really could cut it, and it did lend itself to him being somewhat remorseful about even being drunk in the first place, I think.
True. So and so after this scene, anything else to add there?
No, I don't think so. I just said that Tommy is a complicated character and that this is this is a way to portray that like, deep down that he does want the connection, but like he himself can't let himself. And that's kind of what he ends up with, where he's like holding dad to sleep. Like you could have had an actual conversation with him outside of this state, but you didn't, you made it this way. So now you're like, only now is the humanity starting to show a little bit.
Yeah. So the next scene we get Tommy walking out and he's being cheered for on his walkout, without his trainer. That they made to note that because obviously Pops isn't there and that's what he is to I guess the fighting world, that's his trainer. That's not his dad. It's his, two different names, I guess. I guess in the world they wouldn't know that that was his dad. But
Right.
so and unless I mean also I guess in the world you're supposed to assume like they would look alike because they're father son, but whatever the case may be, no music, but has the military troops singing some random song. I don't know if I'm supposed to know this song, but
Well, it's that's like the song of the Marines.
well,
That's like,
see,
but yeah. Well, this was another one, somewhat similar to the Goldfish to a little minor extent to me, because this is night two of the tournament, right? We're supposed to have thought the night one was before, and this is night two. You mean to tell me that I guess all of those Marines saw night one and are there? To put this into context, if you haven't seen the film or don't remember or whatever, this is an entire section of the crowd, all of Marines, all in Marine uniforms, and they are all singing. It's a Marine choir is what
yes,
is happening here. It's a military choir in the audience singing Tommy out, from the the shores of Albuquerque to the halls of Tripoli, or whatever that the words are. This is this is the Marine song, the hoorah song here, and I'm like, that just seems very crazy. That like all of a sudden a military choir would spawn out of nowhere into this arena.
yeah, that one is pretty nuts to think about. But if you want to think about, I just was reading a little further about what happens in this fight coming up that Tommy is walking towards. I think it's actually even funnier than what happens with the military choir. So obviously, Tommy walks in with no music. You got the military troops singing their military song. Tommy gives a nod to the crowd this time. He actually looks out and he admires his work.
Acknowledges his military brothers for the first time. I was like,
Right,
they're only here for the first time.
right. Exactly. And the last time he was acknowledging me, tipped his hat as he fucking left and left him off. But whatever. So Mad Dog, the guy that was the sparring partner at the time, the one that he knocked out in the training room. This is who his opponent is at this point. Mad Dog walks in, circles the cage, and barks at Tommy, which I thought was a pretty fun. He is the Mad Dog. Sure,
I
good
mean,
little inclusion.
yeah, name appropriate.
Yeah, true. And so Tommy looks loose. Mad Dog says it's not going to happen again. And I have in quotations, if you guys forgot, this is the guy that Tommy beat up at the beginning of the movie and knocked him out. And so the fight starts. Tommy instantly tackles him.
Another insta KO for Tommy. does a full body tackle into full mount and ground and pounds this dude to a late stoppage,
Yeah,
basically.
I have ref question mark. Where you at? I mean, you just decided not to do your fucking job. Beats him instantly. Ref finally steps in. Tommy walks out the cage again. It's like we've seen this already.
Yeah, right. Because I'm saying it goes back to the same point I've made twice now. This is the double-edged sword of the tournament style. You're basically speed running the parts of the bracket so that you can get to where you're eventually going to.
Eh,
But yeah,
yeah,
no good.
and you want to talk about speed running? I mean, when you get to this next fight that we're about to get to, I mean, the biggest like the heel character of what we're supposed to be seeing is in the movie for 30 fucking seconds,
I,
basically.
it's you're packing. It's the tournament, man. It's what you got to pack all these things in because like it's. I will at least give them credit that they set up the Koba character, which is coming up here. But it's like, yeah, you're right. I mean, this is the. That's why I had to make a very specific point about repeating bar for bar what John Anik had said about this guy. This is the undisputed greatest fighter to ever fight, basically. And as you said, it's like, and he's just in and out. But well, we'll get to it in just a second here. But yeah, another speedy exit from the cage for Tommy. He's in, he's out. I said that the doorman must really be on it to be getting this thing open and closed so quickly because he is just constantly having to do his job here. And then we cut to the local drive-in movie theater because they are now instead because we couldn't get the fights in the auditorium. So the kids at the high school, man, they were. They had some ingenuity about them. They somehow figured out a way to get the local drive-in movie theater to air the fights. And so Brandon's high school students are all there. They've got signed. They've got custom Mr. C t-shirts. I'm like, who printed those? And then, good guy principal, he shows up and he has to, he has to go and rep because he's actually a good guy. He's not as much of a hard ass as you thought that he might have been.
So this is the fight where Brendan's coming in, and the principal's watching with the students. Circles the cage at 1,000 to 1 underdog, is what the
Yep.
commentary says here. So makes you believe that he's in for a hoot and a holler. So
Oh
wife is
yeah.
actually here in the crowd. She's gonna watch. She actually, there's her callback from earlier. She said she was never gonna watch again. Here she is. This is the biggest moment of his, career at the time, and Brendan seems nervous about it. Koba is walking out. Look right at him. Don't take your eyes off of him. Don't take your eyes off of him. What I thought was funny is Frank Grillo did that, and then he's like, "Hey, hey, you got to be ready for this." Like it's like you just told him to fucking look at him, dude.
Make up your mind. Yeah, same with the wife too. I was like, yeah, they always come around when you're winning.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, but yes, you're right. Brandon is getting ready to fight the dreaded Koba, who is walking out to the most menacing Russian music of all time. I don't know if you picked up on that, but
Yes.
that song sounds like very. It's not Halloween music, from what I understand. It's like a standard like Russian
It
like kind of
sounds
fight
like
song.
music that plays on a speaker, like on the streets, like when people are like going to work and shit. Like that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, it had a very, very ominous like tone to it. It sounded very menacing, as I said. But yeah, this is so he's walking out to that, and this is actually where I realized that this was Kurt Angle. I think for some reason, for throughout all of this, I hadn't picked up on it, but I did there. And then yeah, so now we're gonna get into the fight with Koba.
Yes, so we come to the middle for the final instructions. We hear a glove touch, but we don't see like at the ones where they're like touch gloves right now if you have any. We hear the thing, but we don't see him do it. But then we get a glove touch at the start. So I don't know if they were like, yeah, make they're gonna touch right there and then they're gonna touch later, but they didn't add the whatever. So no glove touch. Then we get the glove touch. Brendan gets beat up.
Bro, hands and knees, hands and knees. Brendan tries to come back with some shots, not effective against this beast.
Yeah. Returns, decent flurry, gets knocked down, picked up, slammed. Round is over. I
Yeah,
mean,
at least this one looked somewhat believable, I said, after all of these absolutely ridiculous slams in this film.
okay, well, good. So second round starts. Brendan gets suplexed.
I literally, that's how it was in the notes. I said this one looked believable. Huge German suplex with the airtime. Then Koba literally tosses Brendan into the fence. Excuse me, into the fence, like over his shoulder. He like tosses him sideways into the fence.
Yeah. This was definitely great. And then because the fights in this movie are even worse paced as some of the other ones. You get a suplex, and that's the end of the round. Like that's it. So, Saved by the Bell, almost finished. He's tired and concussed, surely. Why are we in the fight? You don't knock him out. You lose the fight. You don't have a home.
I have that in
Pretty
quotations as well. Yep.
pretty good bar. Pretty good bar. Brendan obviously locks in there. Anything to say before we get into round three?
Just my note to that bar was that Bro's been subbing people all tournament. Now he needs to get a KO against the best fighter of all time? Question mark.
That's absolutely hilarious. Yes. So round three starts. We get a tense moment because once again, getting beat up. He just never can win the round to start. So he's getting beat up again, getting wrestled, but now Brendan's the wrestler. Gilly attempt, WWE slam into armbar. He gets out. Darce roll over into full mount. Heel hook attempt. Shout out Walter. And then Koba taps.
Yeah, I said, it's like another come from behind victory, third time in a row. I was like, this is getting a little bit samey, especially when you consider that Tommy has knocked out three people cold in the first 30 seconds of his fights. So I'm like, yeah, guys, look, I understand why this is like the great MMA film after seeing it, but like you got to understand that there are like elements of this that it's like, all right. I mean, we're watching the same things happening to get us to
Mhm.
the ultimate end point. I really think that one major note that I would have is that this movie would have benefited from not having it have been tournament style. I really think that there would have been, I don't know how exactly you do it. I'm sure that I could brainstorm a couple of ways, but like if based on what the fact that we have now seen three times the same thing from both sides of the equation, getting a little bit samey.
Getting a little samey. I agree.
Kind
I
of kind of
definitely
hard to
agree.
think that that would happen three times in one tourney, especially against the universally agreed upon best fighter to ever live. Biggest upset in MMA history, Brian Callen says on commentary.
Yes, so we jump to the top of the cage. We blow kisses to the wife. Brendan and the high school students are going wild. That's about the last thing that I have for the fight with Koba, which was basically building up to be the big bad wolf of this movie. Obviously the end fight is what it is, but this was supposed to be the hardest test, and the greatest pound for pound fighter of all time on the planet Earth, or whatever the hell John Anik was saying. It's just crazy that he amounted to tapping to this random can. You can't really be the greatest ever if you have a plumber and janitors who are coming out here and submitting you in the Grand Prix, dude.
Well, I mean, that's to show that Brendan obviously is not that. But I also did have in the notes, shouldn't Koba have accepted the knee break? I mean, shouldn't he
Yeah.
have just accepted the like, bro, you tap like chicken? Is that what? No, I'm just kidding. But like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You would think that this mythical Russian fighter would, yeah, that it would have been a little bit of a different story there, but no time to think about it because now is when Don Lemon comes in. Actually, I was mistaken before. This is when Don Lemon is on the breaking CNN report here to let us know that Tommy's true identity has been found out. This is when we get to the end of the film, things like this uh, there this is the kind of stuff that makes me really not like the ending of this film.
Hmm.
But so like, yes, we find out that Tommy's true identity has been found out. They are watching the news at the event, question mark. Why is everybody watching the news at the event? But whatever, they are that everybody is now finding out about this all at the same time. We get Pilar, the wife of Tommy's fallen soldier friend from earlier in the film that he was talking to on the phone. She is now on the news explaining what happened, that Tommy was the sole survivor of this attack that he was under at one point, and that he saved a lot of people's lives. But because we know that he was a deserter, he is apparently going to be arrested after this thing.
Yes, he's that is key. He is going to be arrested after the tournament, not after this airs, not after he goes to sleep. After the tournament, we're gonna let him fight because if he wins, I mean that Latino woman is gonna get all this money.
That's the good point. It's like, yes, because if he wins, what? You know what I mean? Like question mark. Yeah, no, there's no reason to let him fight. Yeah, I said, so hold on here. Tommy's identity gets figured out. The US military was firing on its own troops, which killed everyone in Tommy's troop except for him. Now he's going to be arrested by the military, but only after he's allowed to fight his brother in the finals of this MMA tournament. Kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, no, this one is definitely awesome. The news breaks, they're brothers, the world stops, obviously. And then I love how this just like the scene is just like it ends with just like Pops. He's like get a taxi or something like that. Like I don't know. This is just like this whole paragraph right here. News moment showing Tommy's real name and the attempt to abandon his unit. Tommy's going to be arrested. Money goes to the widow. It's like, why did you add this? Like, why did you add this shit?
That yeah, I mean, like you're giving Tommy a reason to fight. You're, like to enter. Tommy needed a catalyst to reform himself to get into this fight, and thus reform himself enough to reconnect with his family. So I understand that
Y-
aspect of it.
You would
Yeah.
say that until you watch the remaining 15 minutes of this movie.
Well,
So,
there you go. Yeah, and then and why also are you setting up this arrest element of it, which spoiler alert, is not going to get resolved. I mean, like, or maybe we'll get, I guess we can theorize that it's going to happen, regardless of the outcome of the final fight or whatever. But like the it's like all of these things again, what you choose to include and what you choose not to include. So we have it almost convolutes something that could have been a lot more streamlined, and I think still as effective, like still as emotionally effective. You already have the emotional relationship with the brothers and their father, and all of the dynamics that come with that. You have all of the elements of Brandon's life with the, why he needs to win the fight. Now, I guess this is telling you this is why Tommy needs to win, is in order to make things right with the wife. But it's like, anyway, I don't know. It's just a lot.
what I mean, they could have not included this, and then we could have all just been like, what was that weird plot hole about the Latino woman he was calling? Like, instead of just like, well, now he's got to pay for, now he's giving this woman the money if he wins and he's arrested. Like, what? And like, this is not what the story was about up until this moment. Who threw this in here? Who free-handed this?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, even if you kept this part without the arrest, I think it would have still been fine. Like, I don't understand why the arrest part was as necessary here. Like, it doesn't up the stakes in any way. He's going to get arrested whether he wins or loses. So, like, and then it adds that weird level of what we're talking about, where it's like just raising questions for no reason. Like, he's going to get arrested after this. Why are they letting him fight? Why don't they just arrest him if he needs to be arrested?
And
Like,
you make a good point. It's like he's going to be arrested after the tournament if he wins or loses. Okay, okay. It doesn't matter if he wins. Okay, he's still going to jail, but he's still arrested.
yeah, so
Whatever.
it just adds a layer, like the unnecessary convoluting of a story that's already over 2 hours long, people, and with the montage in the middle to give you a whole bunch of other information. This is what I'm saying about the pacing of this thing. So that's where we end up with all of this. And yes, as you said, Pops is finally sober, so he's catching a cab to the event. Brandon is backstage with Frank and the wife, and they're sitting around, and the wife is like, "What are you gonna do?" And Brandon says, "I'm gonna fight him." So all right, so now, because that's our first introduction to the idea that this is what this has all been leading up to. Brandon and Tommy are going to have to fight each other in the finals.
All right, so we start out this scene. Pops is in the taxi. Pops is in the taxi. He's on his way. This movie does not dilly dally, is what I said, because he's in the taxi. Flashes of Brendan walking out. Tommy's sitting in the back. Brendan slowly walks out. Tommy's locked in. Brendan enters the cage. I mean, that's as quickly as it comes for it. Tommy walks out looking deranged, of course. Tommy chants, Brendan's in the cage. Not Tommy's chanting Brendan's in the cage. Tommy chants while Brendan is in the cage. Music is setting the tone. They're across the cage, coming together before the fight. Brendan grabs Tommy's gloves, like he like grabs him, and he's like, "Where's Pops?" Like it was kind of a weird like broke the fourth wall for a second. He's like, "Hey, we're here together. Where's
Yeah.
Pops?"
And I mean, from a realism standpoint, that would have been like where like the commission people would have like had to step in, kind of thing.
Yeah,
But anyway, whatever. Movie
yeah. So Tommy walks off, and the fight starts. And of course, and Tommy's winning instant. Yes, every time he wins, the moment the fight starts,
comes out
and Brendan
swinging.
is losing. And Brendan is losing like he always
Mhm.
does. Now,
Yep.
here's where it's great. You get WWE takedowns from Tommy, WWE style slams. And then round one ends and Tommy hits Brendan late. And then I was like, yo, what the fuck? Like, that was kind of a weird thing to add also. It's like, why'd you kind of add Tommy, like, was an asshole in that moment? But
Well, I
whatever.
mean, because he's just continuing down this sort of arc that you thought might have been softened a little bit by the moment that he had with Pops in the hotel room, but apparently with Brendan, it's just not. Again, this is another element that's a little bit off to me as far as like how they're portraying these characters, because you're setting this up as Tommy still just being that same level of intense and spiteful when he already showed a little bit more humanity to the father. Maybe it would have been like, but I guess you need that level of intensity for the fight to be sold. I don't know. Either way, yeah, it's Brandon is stun locked after getting the initial shots. Tommy goes for the 800th massive airborne double leg of this movie. Tommy grabs Tommy back up. They slam. He gets slammed repeatedly. I'm just like, oh my god, with this bullshit
Yeah.
here. And then yes, now we go into the corner. And yeah, Frank is giving him the cornering now.
And Grillo gives him probably the same speech for the next 2 rounds, so I'm not really too worried about it because I couldn't tell you if it was anything important. If you would like to interject, go ahead.
I do have a note. Let me just see what this note says. It says Frank comes in to do his cornering. He says he's not your brother. He's in the way. I was like, yeah, that's fine, et cetera, whatever. But then he tells the ref they're taking a little bit more time because there was a cheap shot at the end of the round. That's what I want. Why I wanted to say, yeah. Tommy keeps swinging up to the horn, and then he hits him a couple times after the horn blows. And then Grillo says to the ref, "We're taking a little bit more time because of the cheap shot." And I was like, that is not how that works. So
Definitely
yeah,
didn't catch that, but that is hilariously not how that works. So
yeah, so I just thought again for the movie that's supposed to be the end all be all of MMA movies, like that kind of thing was just again, hypercritical fight person. That's what this show is all about here. So sue me for that one, but I definitely it was like that was just a little bit odd. Even back then, I think people would have known that that's not how that works.
yeah, so round two is starting. Same thing happens. Tommy's winning. Brendan not doing much. Getting beat up again. Can't see much of what they want to accomplish in the cage, is what I said. I understand, but the casual viewer would not for the most part. Round two ends.
Yeah, fair, I guess. I mean, I just said, yeah, just another round of Tommy spamming meaty hooks all over the place and Brandon barely hanging on. I said this is getting very formulaic at this point. Somehow between days 1 and 2 of this tournament, a whole section of this goes into something different, but yeah, this is a funny little note. So yeah, that is all what happens there. That's basically just the same deal, just a little get the round out of the way. Yeah, but yeah, somehow between days 1 and 2 of this tournament, a whole section of the crowd has, aside from the military, the Marines in their choir, a whole crowd has become Tommy's girls, and they're all wearing matching Tommy T-shirts. So I was like, this between the Marines and the girls, this dude has filled half of this auditorium by himself. Tommy Reardon is a legend.
Yeah, 100%. So round three is about to start, and Tommy's winning again. Tommy's winning again. Underdog in movies means losing every second until winning by submission. Brendan presumably hurts Tommy because at the end of the round he finally gets gets him in a submission. This one was also very interesting because he's got him in a some sort of Kimura arm lock
It's an
position,
omoplata.
omoplata, and Frank Grillo is screaming, "Break it! Break it!" And it's like, dude, that's his fucking brother. Calm down now. But I mean, I
Well,
get it, but like, it was
where
also kind of weird in the moment because like Brendan has been showing that like he doesn't want to, engage in this as much. He doesn't want to be hurting Tommy. So it's like Frank Grillo's like, fucking kill him, dude. You're gonna grab his dick and twist it. Like, you know,
yes, he's conflicted. Brandon is, and yes, you're definitely right. That is the both sides of it because yeah, he's telling him to break it, and he does end up popping Tommy's shoulder. He cries out in pain from that. The horn goes off, and the fight is still going on. It's like that. We literally saw very recently, a verbal submission. That is a literal verbal submission. Why this fight is still going on? Again, realism. This is for fight people, realism, whatever. But that's what we are. We're the fight people. This is what I'd be looking at, and I'm like, you would not let that go. The referee should have stopped the fight when he cried out, and especially after seeing Tommy going forward thereafter, because it's noticeable that his arm is compromised. You know that
yeah.
it's fucked up.
So what's also interesting about this one as well is when Tommy gets up, or sorry, when Brendan gets up and walks towards his corner, he like calls to the ref. He's like, "Hey, ref, is he okay?" Like it was like Interesting moment. Just I don't know.
Yeah, Brandon knows that Tommy's compromised. He's like, "What are you doing, Tommy? Why do you still want to do this? Why are you still doing this?" Tommy says, "Shut the fuck up and fight." And the ref just stands there taking it all in. I was like,
Nice.
this guy Josh is the name of this ref because they keep calling him by name. That's why I picked up on it. And I was like, "Well, Josh, in this movie at the very least, you kind of suck."
100%. Yeah, Josh definitely did not make a long career in this reffing thing. But either way, so round 4 is about to start.
Yes,
Tommy has one arm, and
right.
Pops finally walks in. This was a crazy taxi ride. I mean, Pittsburgh is not that busy, I don't think. I mean,
He
this
didn't
is not
go home.
California.
He was in the hotel.
Yeah, but a taxi ride to the arena or wherever, he would have got there before the fight started, you would think. Like, at any point during the fight, he gets there at the fourth round.
He was
Either way,
drunk as hell, man. He was drunk after not having drank for 1,000 days. This guy is, this. It took a while to wake up.
true, fair, fair. All right,
Of all of
so
the things,
Brendan keeps telling Tommy that they can be done. Like, we can be done. We don't have to finish. And it's like,
right?
no, I mean, you're already in the middle of the round. I mean,
Well, Brandon is shouting, "It's over" at Tommy, and Tommy is swinging with one arm. The other arm, very compromised, just kind of dangling there. And it's like, bro, come on. This is the most obvious, like, that he is not able to fight, man.
yeah.
Like, but okay, this is what's going on here. Tommy is, he's still trying. So, all right.
Yeah, Brendan keeps kneeing Tommy, asking him if he wants more. Then the clapper sounds, and Tommy waves on Brendan. Tommy looks on and sees Pops, and music plays, and that's the end of round 4. And I mean, nothing really too crazy is going on here. It's just kind of stupid at this point, to be
Well,
honest. The fact that the fight is still going on with a man with one arm, but
that's
whatever.
yeah, exactly. And it's like Tommy gets, yeah, he starts kneeing him on the cage. He keeps asking him, "Do you want to do this?" It's like, bro, just go down already. Like, come on, man. So yeah, basically Tommy is finished, but he won't go down. The ref is still just standing there watching and not doing anything. The clapper goes. Brandon picks up the striking again. Clap the horn sounds, and the round ends. So it's just like, how are we still doing this? Like, this is getting ridiculous. But this is
Oh,
also
because we
where,
have to go to 5 rounds in a championship fight in a movie.
and we also have to make sure that Pops gets there in time.
True.
You
Yeah,
know,
true.
so yeah, Nolte shows up looking at Brandon while he sits on the stool, and Tommy is in his corner about to cry over this situation to an extent. I mean, the emotion is starting to get to him, I think, because he knows that he's not going to be able to repay the widow, I would think, is what they're trying to portray there. But or also probably because his shoulder's been popped out of
He's
its
gonna
socket.
go to jail.
And that's a lot of things going on with him. So there you go. The emotion is warranted.
So round 5 starts. They both grit their teeth and begin. Brendan puts his hands down, fake out with the hands down, kicks Tommy to death. I just love this one. He stands there with his hands down and then head kicks him, gets on top of him, chokes him out, says he's sorry. Brendan wins as Tommy finally taps out. I don't know why they felt the need for him to tap out. Like,
Could have just gone out.
yeah, I mean, especially in that position, like with the arm thing, it's like, okay, he's not gonna tap, let it break. But then, like with a choke, it's like you could just have him not tap, and like it would suck. But then I guess you don't get that ending moment that we're about to get into. So Tommy taps, everyone goes crazy. Brendan and Tommy embrace in the middle of the octagon. Brendan like shoos everybody away. He's like, please just let me have this moment. He picks Tommy up. They walk out the cage and they walk down this tunnel, and there's 10 minutes of credits after that.
Yeah, so I mean, just to recap it, in this, basically, you're exactly correct about all of that. But yeah, so we for that fifth round, you get the time slowing down effect for all of this because obviously this is the big crescendo of everything. And Tommy is still going out with his fucked up shoulder, arm hanging dead, one arm up, wanting to fight still, and we hear the music overtake the audio as Brandon's coming out, still wanting to just finish this thing already. That should have already been stopped. Whatever, they're still going. Head kick happens, gets the rear naked choke. He tells him he's sorry and that it's okay that he can tap. And as he's choking him out, and as he's finally about to tap, he tells him that he loves him. So it's like obviously the emotional heightening going on here. Wife goes nuts. The school kids at the drive-in all go nuts. The physics teacher won this whole thing. It's crazy. Ain't that something that this all happens? Tommy finally wakes up after, going out for a second or whatever. But, they hug, like you said. He helps him out of the cage. Crowd is going nuts. Music ramps up. Enter the backstage hall. And then it's over. That's it. And then it just ends. It dead end, no resolutions to any of those other things that we had talked about. You know, you don't get any kind of reconciliation with the father afterwards. There's no any kind of, like, you're just, I guess, supposed to presume that all of that happens. And this is my biggest problem with this film, is really even bigger than the WWE stuff, is that how do you just end it after we literally sat for 2+ hours getting to that, for it to dead end? I mean,
Yeah.
it was about as abrupt an ending as you could possibly get for all of what this has been setting up.
Yeah, this one, crazy ending, especially because once again, this is supposed to be the mecca of MMA films. Apparently, this is what I was told is the highlight of watching a movie about mixed martial arts. And with an ending like that, and with a lot of different plot points that were interesting and not brought back up, I mean, this ending is pretty crazy because I actually stopped it. When I watched him walk out the tunnel, I was like, this is a good stopping point. Like, I'll get the last 10 minutes, I'll finish that last scene. But when I turn it back on, it goes right to credits. I'm like, you're telling me 10 minutes? 10 minutes of credits? We don't find out if he goes to jail. We don't find out if Brendan actually gets the 5 million. Does he give a little bit of it to his brother? Like, what's the situation here?
Yeah, you're exactly. I mean, like, okay, a different movie with a much more stripped down story could end this way and still be satisfying. Like,
Hmm.
there are different ways to do this. I think of a film. I think I might have even referenced Fargo at some other point. It might on a different episode in a different capacity. But I bring up Fargo to say Fargo is a film that you don't know any of the inciting incidents, and you don't know anything that happens after the incidents. You get this portion of the story, and both sides of it are completely left to your own imagination. It's done in a way that is very satisfying. This film could have been that, but you set up so many different things that it's almost a bit of a slap in the face to the audience to not have some resolution to these things.
Yeah.
The two of them fighting and then embracing afterwards, that's a resolution, and I will give you that. But to have the open-ended thing with the house, the relationship with the father, the military arresting, the wife of the fallen soldier friend. I mean, I can go on and on about all of this stuff, but I'm just saying that, like, you have so many things that you to have a 2+ hour film and not at least have 2 minutes of some type of way to give me some other additional piece of the epilogue of this whole thing is, the way I think that's the epilogue, the afterwards, to give me some kind of postscript to all of this. It seemed a little bit, it fell flat. I think it just fell a little bit flat.
It's yeah, they added some things, especially the arrest thing. They added that later towards the movie, and then they just seemingly forgot to add that part back in. Like,
Exactly.
so I don't know. It is very interesting. The movie is very good. I mean, there's a lot of good things about it. It's more of a heartfelt story than a mixed martial arts film, in my opinion. But I genuinely did really enjoy what I was seeing here.
Well, I mean, so since that is the end of what actually happens in this film proper, I guess that this is a good time to do our little assessments here. So, um, what would you rate this film as a film?
As a film, Um, I'll give it an 8 for like a film itself. An 8 for sure.
Eight is a good answer to that. I would say, again, because of the ending, I have to give it like a 7. I want to say like a 7.5. If we have to do round numbers, I will go with a 7, but it really is just about the ending when you compare it with the pacing of the rest of the film. That's the
Hmm.
problem, because and it hurts me to have to give it a 7, because this could be like a 9 easily because of the performances. The acting in this film is really, really solid
Yeah,
for all the characters. I mean, Tom Hardy's great, Edgerton's great, Nolte is great, the wife is fine. Like, the principal, everybody is fine in this film acting wise. It really comes down to the pacing of the story and the way that it concludes, which is why I can't go higher. I have to give it a 7 as a film. So that's just that one. But as an MMA film, what would you rate it?
oh, 4, 5.
Ah, yeah, that hurts me. See, I would go a little bit higher than that. I would say that as an MMA film, I would give it probably about an 8. I have
It,
to say, I mean, I think that it does, like, I don't know. You must have a different criteria on what you want to see out of MMA on film.
I
Because
mean, relatable stories to fighters that I've, witnessed kind of deal. I don't know two fucking brothers that have ever fought each other that wanted to be that never knew each other. You know, that's just like a weird. Okay, you have two people that grew up together, but one left for the military. Now he's abandoned the military. Now they've met back up. They both want to be fighters. Now they're going to fight each other in the end of the tournament. It's like, why couldn't they just be two people? Like, why couldn't they just be like, why couldn't Koba be the other guy? You know, like, I
Well,
don't know.
so but then let me reframe it then. But when it comes to the actual portrayal of mixed martial arts, how would you feel about that?
I think there's just a lot of little things that could be done really well. Like when you watch The Cage and you looked at what he was, the way that they were portraying the meal prep, I thought that was that was very key and very accurate to what I would say most modern day athletes are. They're just eating powder all day. Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
I like that aspect of it, and I also liked being able to see the mixed martial arts at a wide angle where you can see the moves being done, where it's not cutting because the people can't accurately do it on screen. You know,
and
I don't know.
thinking about it now too, like I gave it an 8. I actually have to drop that a little bit too. I think I have to give it a 7 for it being a mixed martial arts film as well. Because why did you put that fucking WWE shit in there? I don't like, bro. Look, this is the whole point of the show is to accurately assess these films in this way, right? I mean, it's like if you are like from a filmmaking standpoint, I told you why with the end, with the pacing and everything. From an MMA standpoint, those are the things that stuck out like sore thumbs to me.
When
That
you
the weird stuff that I talked about with the verbal tap, the extra time on the stool. I, Look, it is what it is. I mean, I understand how you feel about it, but I got to be accurate here. So 7 on that as well.
Yeah, I actually, you're making even a better of a case because when you think of the mixed martial arts, like what we witness every Saturday for the UFC and the mixed martial arts world, what did the press conference look like in this movie? It was nothing. Didn't even see him sit down and get a question from an interview, you know, like, or an interviewer. Like, it was just them in a ballroom, and we're just supposed to assume that's the press conference. They did some really good talking there. You know, at least with Holly Berry's movie, they did a face off.
True. Yeah, you
So,
make a good point. So well then, I mean, I guess there you go. So that all being said, those assessments as they are, would you recommend Warrior?
oh yeah, for sure. It's definitely a movie that you should see. I think it's more appealing to casual people because it's more just a drama. You know, it's just a drama film. The mixed martial arts aspects of it, it's not shoved down your throat, and you can just ignore most of that part of it. Like, not just the end, not the ending itself, but like the fact that these are two mixed martial artists. You can just assume these are two people having regular lives, and they're just gonna have their own stories and like they're brothers. You know, so.
Perhaps. I mean, I would say that the MMA plays a little bit more of a part than you're giving it credit for
Well,
in that
it
assessment. But
it does, but like if you're just strictly here to turn on a movie because you want to feel something, the emotion is carried not from the mixed martial arts. It's just the drama. It's the people and the story. It's not the sport itself. That's not driven. That's not driving this element. You know, this
yeah,
narrative.
no, I agree. I definitely that I can definitely agree with
It's
you on
about
that
broken
part of it.
homes and anything
Sure.
like
Yeah.
that.
I mean, really, if you break it down in a way, it almost is like two. I mean, obviously, very different versions of the story, but it has a lot of parallels with Bruised in a way, and that like that element of it. It's like the fighting is yes, it's a part of it, but like it's the trappings of it that are the thing.
I thought this had a lot of shared elements with the Smashing Machine because this was two people who were, again, brotherhood is a big theme that I thought was throughout of this. This is two people who are on two different paths and they're both in a tournament leading up and they're supposed to fight each other in the end. But Smashing Machine, we didn't really get that. I think this was kind of them being like, here's our opportunity to take the two people that trained together that were brothers, you know. So I thought
That
that was
is,
kind of.
I think, yeah, that is an apt comparison. I think you're absolutely 100% correct on that. I also would recommend this film. Yes, what I would say about this film is that the way that everybody has been talking about this film, I can understand why they feel that way about it. I would say that this should be, in my estimation, this should be the baseline that you measure other mixed martial arts films against. This is a solid middle point that has all of the elements that you would want in a mixed martial arts film to an extent. It's got the fighting. I thought the fighting was portrayed pretty decently, so I was okay with that, except for the things that I had mentioned. But like what I'm saying is that if this is the middle ground, then there should still be films that can surpass this, and there are definitely going to be many, many, many that are going to be underneath it. So like
So
it's a
so
solid middle ground.
so what you're saying is, so from here on out, our grading scale should have 5 being warrior.
I mean, I want to say higher because it's like I think it's better than 5 would lead you to believe, but I think that it should be like it's what you grade against. So like,
Okay.
I would definitely say so because I think that like if I see something in a different film and I'm like that was better than Warrior, then that stands out to me as something that like is like an elevated element of it. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? That like that is noticeably better, and can be and there's room for that. I would say.
Yeah, this one was definitely a good movie. I will recommend it, but it's hard for me to recommend this to somebody and be like, if you are a true mixed martial arts fan, like this is the movie that's gonna make you realize like film and mixed martial arts can go hand in hand. Like this is literally just you could find this on Netflix any other fucking day. Not the mixed martial arts aspect of it, but the drama aspects of the characters, the people, the emotion that is very similar. That is shared with a lot of different titles. But the mixed martial arts stuff, it isn't a unique take in the story of mixed martial artists. Two brothers that are separated, early in life, kind of deal. They both go on to have, one of them's living the right side of the life, and the other one's living the left side, and then they end up meeting up and it's a fine tale. It's not the worst, is what
Oh
I'll
yeah.
say.
Yeah, definitely not the worst for sure. Yeah, I thought that there was a lot of value in this film. I can understand that take though, that like, maybe it's like I mean, really I think what I'm coming to find a lot of the times is that like I just keep going back to just watch the Smashing Machine documentary, but when I say that, I'm just like that's real life though. So like
Yeah,
maybe I'm waiting for the MMA film that like that gives you the feeling of real life, and that I
yeah.
think is the issue. You know what I mean? Is that it's ain't nothing like the real thing sometimes,
Yeah,
perhaps.
and so if you are out there listening to this stream still, or if you are ever watching this stream in replay, I want you to go ahead and leave a comment on your mixed martial arts movie that you think that we are going to get the best example of mixed martial arts in film, because we are definitely looking to have a bunch more of these movies, reviewed and recapped, because these are
Absolutely.
definitely fun to do.
Yes, most definitely. So let me get through the trivia real quick and then
Yeah,
we
go
can
ahead.
wrap this thing up because I know that we've, another one where we went long as usual. You know how we are. Okay. So trivia for this film that I think is pertinent. This film was in loving memory of our friend Charles Mask Lewis Jr. He is one of the co-founders of Tap Out. We talked about Tap Out a ton in this, of course. Tap Out very prominently represented here. Mask was the first non-UFC, or excuse me, the first non-fighter entered into the UFC Hall of Fame. He died in 2009 in an automobile crash, unfortunately. But obviously, that shows you the level of influence that Tap Out had. This person being a non-fighter entered into the Hall of Fame. So that's number one. Next up is that the other Tap Out guys in the film are the actual Tap Out guys. That these are the actual people from Tap Out, the organization. That's Dan Punk Ass Caldwell and Timothy Skyscrape Katz are the other two there that were on the MMA Live. There are a couple of fighters in this film that I had missed. Eves Edwards is one of the fighters. A bruised alum. Eves Edwards was the commentator during the fight scene at the end with Halle Berry there. And Nate Marquardt is also in this film too, which is
Who?
Nate Marquardt. I thought that it was funny that because didn't you recognized him from the Smashing Machine, if I'm not mistaken, didn't you?
No way. Not even close. Never heard that name in my life.
That are you really kidding me right now? I thought that was you that pointed it out.
Nate Merkart?
Marquardt.
Never heard of it.
Okay, then all right. Well, he is also in this film, also an old school MMA guy. And I thought that you had said that he was the guy who's training with Coleman, training with Ryan Bader, and you were like, I thought that was that guy.
No, I don't think so. It wasn't me.
Oh, it might have been Gray Maynard. That might have been who you thought it
Gray
was.
Maynard.
That
I do
yeah,
know that guy.
that I think is who it was, and that's who you might have been saying it was. But yeah, Nate Marquardt is also in this film. Another
Gotcha.
MMA fighter. Renowned trainer. This goes back to your note about Grillo and his cornering. Renowned trainer Greg Jackson was also the technical advisor for this film. Greg Jackson, of course, Jackson Wink, John Jones connection there. Frank Grillo based his character on Greg Jackson. Grillo and Joel Edgerton trained and lived with Jackson at Jackson Wink during pre-production. All of Grillo's cornering dialogue was suggested by Greg Jackson. So
Nice.
you have Greg Jackson to thank for all of that repeating himself.
Yeah, he was definitely he was definitely not the best cornerman that I've heard of. Leon Edwards, he probably should have took some notes from that guy. Go back in time.
There you go. So about the referee that we were talking about at the end there,
Josh.
Josh, indeed, yes, that another character that has his actual name. That is Josh Rosenthal, who was an actual referee. Fun fact: he did 37 months in jail for running a mass-scale marijuana grow operation with over 1,000 plants, valued at over $6 million. This was way before legalization was anywhere near being on the table. So unfortunately, Josh Rosenthal a little bit ahead of the curve when it came to the current landscape of marijuana cultivation, but ended up paying the price for it. So sad deal there.
Yeah, no, he's a Chad for that one. And it's funny
Definitely.
because he still has that on his record and it's legal as hell in most places. So that's
Eh,
funny.
That is the unfortunate part for anyone who's been popped for that kind of thing.
Yep.
All right, going on here. This film was directed, produced, and co-written by Gavin O'Connor, who also plays the Sparta president guy in the film, the bald gentleman who is explaining about the tournament style thing and everything.
Nice.
That is the director of this film, co-writer and producer. He has a good amount of executive producer credits under his belt. Most importantly, a film from 2002 called The Smashing Machine.
Nice.
So he was a producer on the original Smashing Machine documentary. So you're saying that that might be a little bit of an inspiration there. Makes perfect sense, right?
Yep.
Here is another point that I think that you need to take note of, Chase, because you are the list keeper
Okay.
of our MMA on film list of films that we are considering here. There is an Indian remake of this film. It is called Brothers. It is from 2015. I said, add it to the list there, Chase.
Hold on. Brothers Indian remake of
2015.
Warrior. Wow.
Oh,
Got it.
yes.
Got
So,
it.
keep your eye out for that episode where we can go and compare it to the original source material. But you got it. It's there. So, yeah, apparently that's not uncommon. You know how we sometimes will remake shows and films from England and other regions of the world. Apparently, India does that as well in Bollywood. So, this is not a Bollywood film. There's not like dancing, from what I understand, and all that. But it does exist. So, add it to the list.
Nice. It might be pretty good. You never know.
You never know, and we will find out. So okay, another note here, moving forward in the trivia. Tom Hardy is an experienced BJJ
Yep.
practitioner himself. That was a note I intentionally held back when we were talking about him at the start of this. He entered a tournament under a false name and ended up winning that tournament. So he's a high, decently high level
Living up to
practice.
his character.
And so he's currently a purple belt, and wouldn't you know it, he started training because of this film. He
Nice.
training for the film, and he's just stuck with it. So you have Warrior to thank for Tom Hardy being a BJJ guy for life now. So shout out to Tom Hardy for that one. He is a real one.
Hell yeah. For sure.
So yes, as I had mentioned somewhere during this very long review, apparently Dana White and Joe Rogan both hate this film. According to Frank Grillo, they didn't. Or excuse me, according to Frank Grillo, they don't like it because they think that it is an inaccurate portrayal of MMA. I think it's probably either because of the $5 million purse for the tournament or the Koba being Fedor thing. But that's open to your interpretation as to why they hate this movie. But Dana
Hey,
and Joe Rogan hate it.
listen, I just watched the movie and I told you it wasn't that great of a depiction of MMA. And now that Dana White and Joe Rogan say it, it's because of fucking $5 million and fucking Koba. No, I'm telling you, it's just because some people have a certain lens for what we're witnessing here. I mean, it's not the worst, and it's not like I just watched a whole season of like a mixed martial arts thing, like a whole tournament. Like, it doesn't give you the vibe of watching one entire card or a tournament or whatever, but it does a good enough explanation of like people who have this as a career and they do different stuff. Like, this specific story itself, you can't like you said, it's pulling from different things. It's at different inspirations, putting it together. That's why it's so unique of a story. There's not anybody who has this fucking story. that's why I think it's like doesn't connect to me at all, and it doesn't showcase the martial arts, which is supposed to be what the movie's about, you know. So that's just my opinion.
Well, I don't think that Dana or Joe Rogan are that deep. So,
They gotta
I,
be. They gotta be. They don't watch Star Wars. They can't be like Sean Strickland and be gay, you know? Like, it's fine. They're just watching anything out there.
okay. Well, whatever the case may be, you can draw your own conclusions as to why Dana and Joe Rogan hate this film. But either way, the last piece of trivia I already talked about Rich Franklin potentially being somewhat of what Brandon's character was based on. Again, shout out to Cody Gibson, another teacher in the sport, and Vidal, as
Freddie
you said.
Vidal,
Yep. Freddie Vidal, who probably not going to be hearing much from again, but either way, shout
but
out
he'll
to
be
both
a
of them.
teacher still.
Damn right. That's a good point. And then the last piece of trivia I intentionally saved for last just because this is a little bit of a weird one. This is from IMDb directly as it is written. Co-writers Anthony Tambakis and Gavin O'Connor, those the two co-writers from this film, they were introduced by Brian Callen, you know, Brendan Schaub's partner, right? So they were introduced by comedian Brian Callen, who plays himself in this movie alongside Sam Sheridan. Callen dated director Patty Jenkins for 9 years. Patty Jenkins is the director of
The
Wonder
Wonder
Woman.
Woman? Oh, God.
There you go. And she is now married to Sam Sheridan.
Who's Sam Sheridan?
That's the guy who was the other commentator with Brian Callen in this film.
What a weird world Hollywood is.
That's literally why I said I was like, I'm going to leave that for the end and just let you kind of stew on it however you want to take that. Because, yeah, 9 years she was with Brian Callen, and now she is with the guy that he was in this movie with.
It's just funny that it's fucking Patty Jenkins. Like, what the hell? It's always somebody you know in this world.
Yeah, yeah, very strange. But that all being said, folks, that is our review of Warrior. Thank you very much for sticking it out with us. We appreciate it. As Chase mentioned, leave us some comments and some recommendations for the things that you want to see us do on this show and talk about for an exorbitant amount of time. We are always looking for new suggestions for what you guys want to see us review. We appreciate you guys here. Chase, any last thoughts?
No, I think I just want you guys to go ahead and leave us some suggestions, or we're going to go ahead and start picking from this very lengthy list of shows, documentaries, and or movies that we have to watch. So if you guys don't go ahead and leave us something, we're going to have to get creative, and it may not be a movie this next time. It might be a show. It might be a docuseries. It might be a video course. You do not know what our options are. So make sure you get your opinion out and let us know, because if you're the only one that leaves a comment, I hate to break it to everybody else, but we're gonna have to fucking watch the one comment. So if you're gonna be the guy, be the guy.
Exactly. Don't leave us to our own devices, is what Chase is getting at there. So
We're gonna watch MMA Love Never Dies or Female Fight Squad. So you figure out which one it's gonna be, chat. Pick a one or two.
So yeah, I mean, you guys let us know what you want to see, and we will definitely consider it. So again, thank you very much for hanging with us for this. We appreciate your support. Make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe if you're not already, and we will see you in the next installment of MMA on Film. And scene. And
Hell
of
yeah.
course, that is where the VOD will end. But guys, I saw Chase looking over to the chat from time to time. So if any of you guys from the chat are still with us, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you guys. Good Lord, I know that these things are long engagements, and of course we don't interact with the chat very much during them. So thank you guys for all of the support. As always, you guys are legends. We appreciate you. We are both getting tired. It is nearly 2:00 in the morning for both of us. So I think unless you got anything else, Chase, I think we can close this thing on out.
No, we're good to go. We are good to go. If anybody cares, 6:30 tomorrow morning, one championship. I will be up watching it. So be there.
Yeah, that and you're doing the late show too, no?
The late one, there will be a card at 9 o'clock starting tomorrow. I will be on my way home to watch that as well.
Chase doing double duty when it comes to the one championship. I will try my very best to be on some of that, at least in the chat. Of course, Saturday is UFC. Myself and Vitz King will be back, and keep an eye out for the VOD of this thing, which will be coming out very soon. So have a great rest of your night, guys. We will catch you in the next one. Peace.
Interesting.